Hello! Can everyone hear me? The music might be a little loud. Let me turn that down. Is that a little better for everyone? Hi, everyone! Perfect. If it's still too loud, definitely let me know. So, welcome to the stream. Oh, nice t-shirt, thanks! I got a bunch of this because I work at the Artella booth at CTN. Same with AM shirts. So, I love these shirts. They're super comfy. I don't know what material AM uses for these, but they are super comfy. They're some of my favorite shirts. And I get them because I volunteered at the booth, so yay! Welcome everyone. Hello, Burn the Midnight Oil. Awesome name. For today's stream, I'm going to be continuing the Raptor animation that I was working on from last week. Last week I had gotten in the key poses, so just the very, very rough animation. This week I'm going to be refining it. Oh, Allison, hey! You've got an awesome screen name. It's perfect for an animator, that's for sure. Excuse me, I'm still getting over that con crud. In today's stream here, I want to basically cover the refining process. Try to get this as close to final as possible. We'll see how far we can go. I'm probably going to be streaming for 3 hours-ish. We'll see how the progress goes. And Sin had asked earlier about some tips on speeding up workflow. And I was actually going to cover some of that today, because at this point, after the initial blocking, that's when progress seems to slow down quite a bit for a lot of animators, because now you're getting into the little details and it gets much harder to see any progress. It really feels like you're slowing down. Oh, hey, Abia. I want to cover that today, because it's a big hurdle that a lot of people have to get over, and a lot of people encounter as they're getting into their animation. So, I haven't seen any progress on my shot for the last 2 days. Exactly. It can be very daunting. So, hopefully the tips I'm going to give here are going to be helpful. So, I think we'll just jump right into it here. And if you do have questions, if anyone has questions, or if just you want to chat about anything, feel free to chat. That's what these Q&As are here for. For streams. Not Q&As, streams. I have to get my terminology correct. But let me just jump right into Maya here and our desktop. So before I actually go into the animation, the first thing I need to do is review my shot from last week. Now, like I said before, last week we just got the main key poses in here. And I've got it in very early splines just to kind of get a better idea of the overall timing of this. Because I did do a bit of work in the graph editor. And overall, it's okay. It's passable at this point. It's moving, I can say that. And there's a lot of things that can still be added in here. Now, one of the things that a lot of people will do when they first start working on shots like this is they'll just start working on it. So I've got into blocking here, I've got it into early splines, now I need to continue with it. And most people will just jump right in and fix things. And that's not a bad thing, but going in without a plan can very often hurt your productivity. So whenever I'm working, what I like to do is make a checklist of things that I need to fix. I'll just take time, scrub through my animation. I'm using Keyframe MP here to scrub through my play blasts. That way I can get some really nice frame options here to frame through my shot. And I'm just going to make a list, and I do it on pen and paper, or pencil and paper, of everything I need to fix. And the reason I like to do this is it gives me a plan of what I need to address, and it also allows me to see how much progress I'm making. The other thing that it helps to avoid is constant play blasting. An issue that a lot of people can fall into, and I was guilty of this when I started out, was if I'm trying to fix something, let's say the hips on my character, I would tweak a little something in Maya, do a play blast. Oh, it's not quite right. I'll tweak it again, do a play blast. And I do it over and over and over and over. And I'm wasting time doing play blasts. So by having a list, I usually try to finish almost all the items on my list, or at least a section of them, before I do a play blast. This forces me to focus on progress instead of nitpicking, which is a very fine line at times, especially when you get into the polishing of your shot. So I did this before the Q&A. I've got a clipboard here. So you can see all the notes that I've got there. These are just the preliminary notes. I've got 12 of them right now. And I just went through and analyzed my shot, giving it a comment as if I was commenting on someone else's work. And just making a list of everything that didn't look right. A lot of these have to do with the hips. The hips aren't quite working right at the moment. For example, the hips are moving down at the same time as the foot is contacting. So I'm not getting a sense of weight. I'm not getting the foot contacting, then the hips coming down. Then when they're coming up, I've got the opposite problem where the foot is lifting off the ground before the hips are moving up. That means the supporting leg is going to be doing all the lifting. That again kills the weight of the character. I need to either have the hips move up earlier or have that foot stay on the ground longer. Let's see. So I've got all of these notes here, and once I have the notes, what I do is I number them. So I don't know how well you can see that there, if it's going to focus. So I number all of them. And the reason I do this is so that I can go through all my notes and I know which ones are the most important to hit. So I just go from node number 1 all the way to, in this case, number 12, and address them one at a time. And this helps me avoid starting on notes that aren't relevant yet. So for example, if I'm going to adjust the hip, one of my notes right now is that the chest isn't overlapping properly with the hips. So if I was to fix the chest now and then adjust the hips afterwards, I'm gonna have to redo the chest afterwards because I've just changed the hips. So I want to make sure that I address all my notes for the hips first, and then I move on from there. It just helps me keep things organized and not have to redo a lot of work. So let's go to my shot camera here, and I need to get my animation layout back here. There you go. So let's just start off with our first notes. And as usual, if you have questions, let me know. But this is just this note taking here. This will help speed up your workflow a lot. Making sure you take detailed notes. And I've had shots that I've animated on where I've filled this sheet with notes, and I usually write like 2 columns. So I'd have maybe 40, 50 notes on one page. And they can be little things like, oh, maybe the finger overlap is not working right, or there's a little pop somewhere. Write it down. Make sure it's there, and then you can address it. And this doesn't mean that you only touch on the notes that you have here. If you spot something on your animation, you can always fix it then as well. You don't always have to write it down as a note first. It just kind of helps keep things organized. Do you usually work hiding parts of the body, or do you always have everything visible? I tend to have everything visible for the most part. Mostly because some rigs don't have the ability to hide different parts. So, for example, on this character, on this rig, I cannot hide the head or the arms or the legs and just focus on one part of the body. Everything's visible at all times. Now, I could technically hide the visibility by selecting the geometry and applying a transparent material. That could be possible. but a lot of times I find that more hassle than it's worth. If I can't hide a body part, so for example, if I just want to focus on the hips and not worry about the head or the arms or anything else, I can usually do it in two ways. One, I'll just look at the control itself. So if I just watch this control and see how it moves, and just focus on that, that can often give me an idea of what's going to happen. And sometimes if you're lucky, you can go to Show, Isolate, Select, View Selected, and then just focus on that. So it's not really the actual hips, but it gives you an idea of how those hips are moving. And even with this, I can see that there's something off with it. It's not moving in a very organic way. It's kind of just in a U shape instead of a figure 8 shape, which isn't quite right. So that can be very quick and easy way of focusing on one controller, one part of the body. The other way, and this is kind of the more rough way, is just take your hand or a notepad and put it in front of your face as you're looking at the screen and block off part of the shot. So you just hold it in front of your monitor and hide the things you don't want to see. That is actually very, very helpful, especially if you just want to focus on the top half of the character or the bottom half. It can help you narrow down where an issue is. And this goes with acting shots as well. You can hide the eyes of a character or hide the mouth so that you can kind of figure out where something in the face isn't working without having to actually hide the actual geometry of the face. Oftentimes those little I don't know what the right term for them would be. Just like the very rough, using your hands and hiding part of the screen, that kind of thing, oftentimes can be the most helpful. It's the same when you're reviewing your work. If you're looking at your work and you can't see mistakes in it, or you're having trouble focusing on what's wrong with it, but you can still see something's wrong with it. This is oftentimes called shot blindness. You've been looking at your shots so long that you can't see the mistakes anymore. Just reverse it, mirror it. And most people do this by just taking a mirror and just holding it back and looking at the reflection of your monitor on the mirror. And that'll give you a good indication of what's wrong with your shot, because it tricks your brain into looking at it in a more fresh way. Now, with a lot of the modern programs, I think this one here has it. You can have flip horizontal and flip vertical. So if I do this helps me refresh my brain and possibly see mistakes. I can also flip vertically. So again, it's just a way of refreshing your brain so that you can see the mistakes. Exactly, mirroring your shots is super helpful. It's something that I've seen a lot of people go, it's the same shot, I'm not going to see anything different. It makes a huge difference. Artists use this all the time when they're drawing, because when you flip an image that you've drawn, a lot of times you'll notice perspective issues with the shot. And it's amazing just how much of a difference it makes in seeing mistakes. So with this program, I like it because it's just a quick hotkey, and I can just flip it on the fly. So even as it's playing, just flip through and get a fresh idea of my scene. Now, that doesn't always work. If you're still stuck, ask other people for help too. Never feel like you can't ask people to take a look at your work. That's going to really help you progress as an animator, as an artist. If you just focus on keeping it to yourself and never showing it, is just going to hinder you more than anything. At some point, your shot has to go out there, and that's why it's nice to create a small group. It doesn't have to be a big group, but just a small group of friends or people who will just share shots with each other. So you'll take a look at their work, they'll take a look at yours, and you have this resource to fall back on. For me, I was lucky. I have my brother who can always take a look at my work. So that's always really helpful. And that's actually another point. I know we're kind of not getting anywhere on the animation yet, but if you don't have anyone animation related who can take a look at your work, so another animator, showing your work to someone who doesn't understand animation or is not an animator is not a bad thing either. They might not be able to give you exact feedback like, oh, the spacing on the hip needs to ease in and ease out a little bit more or something like that, or you have to offset certain things. But they can give you a general idea if the shot is working or not. And oftentimes their feedback can be the most helpful. Because as animators, when we comment on a shot, a lot of times we're going to focus on the elements of it. So again, the hips or the spacing or the timing. We're breaking it down to these fundamentals. And it can be very easy to forget that the first thing we should be looking at is, does the shot make sense? Is it appealing? Is it fun to watch? And with someone who's not trained in animation, that's the first things they're going to look at, because that's what they look at when they look at films or cartoons or anything else. Is it fun? Is it interesting? Especially kids. Kids are great for that because that's what they look at cartoons for. They're not looking at it for the technical specifications of the cartoon and whether it was made in Maya or Flash or hand-drawn or anything like that. They're looking at it for entertainment, pure and simple. So that can be an amazing resource. So jumping into the shot here, I'm just going to start addressing all of my notes here. So the first note that I have is that the body feels a little too far forward. It feels like the dinosaur is just a little out of balance moving forward. So I'm just going to kind of find a pose where that feels a little extreme. I think it's right around here-ish. Feels like he could be a little bit back. So I'm just going to take my translate Z curve, and for both the head and the hips, I'm just going to drag that back slightly. I can even just do it in the viewport. And let's just try to get a more appealing pose there, so it doesn't feel like he's going to fall forward. Same there. Oh. And of course, Maya froze on me. Luckily, I didn't do anything yet today, but this is just one of those things with animation. Especially Maya 2017 seems to be freezing for me a lot lately. I'm not sure if it's the program or the rig I'm using, or maybe it's the fact that I'm streaming while I'm animating. But it's just one of those things where even when you're working at a studio or something like that, sometimes you're going to be working on a shot and one day everything's perfect. You're running perfectly smooth, no problems. Then the next day you're working on a different shot and the computer's crashing every time you try to do something. And that happens. It's just something in that shot is breaking the scene. I've had that happen to me so many times. One shot's perfectly fine, the other one, which is almost exactly the same setup, I can't work with it. And sometimes you just have to work through that. So it's just important to get into the habit of saving often. So in my case here, I hadn't even started, so that didn't affect me all that much. Okay, so let's do that again. Select the hips, select the head, and let's just go through our key poses here. So contact. I think it's this pose that can be pulled back slightly, and this one. Okay. Oh, and oh, this is gonna make a great stream. I think Maya just froze on me again. That's fun. We're off to a great start. 2 freezes right away. Let's see. So, I'm gonna have to just close Maya. Let's see. So let's just open that up again. So, Maya 2017. And let's give it another try. And this time I'm gonna switch some viewport settings just to make sure that that's not the issue. It's funny that on the stream where I was going to talk about speeding up your workflow, I can't even get started. Oh, do you have any other Maya versions installed? I have Maya 2015 and 16, and I believe 14 as well. I might, if it crashes again, I might just go to Maya 2016. Nothing I've done so far requires 2017. I'm not using any of the new plugins or anything like that. So I might just go for the stability. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the Viewport 2.0 anti-aliasing and ambient occlusion. Just see if that helps at all. And let's just do what we did before. Head and cog there. And let's just bring things back slightly. Okay. Something like that, and I'm just going to check the graph editor. Layout. Animation layout. Turn off the textures on that just in case. And look at my Translate Z. 2016 has always been the nicest for you? Nice. I've heard a lot of different things from different people. Usually 2015 seems to be the most stable from what I've heard. 2016 is also pretty good. It wasn't at the beginning, but usually Maya is kind of like that. At the beginning, it's going to be a little bit buggy because it's a new version. So it takes a few months until they release the service packs, and then it gets really good. And Maya 2017, I've kind of heard mixed things about it. Some people never encounter any issues with it, and typically I haven't encountered all that many problems with it except for doing this animation here. So it really is up to the setup, I think, of your system and the scene you're animating. One thing I do like about Maya 2017 is the graph editor has been slightly updated, so you can just scrub in the timeline right in here. You don't have to hit play or go down to the timeline down here. It's right in there, built in. So that kind of helps speed things up a little bit. It's not a huge difference, but it's just kind of a nice little feature. And let's clean up this graph editor here. Try to get our forward translation working well. So as I'm doing the forward translation, I'm just trying to think of how the speed of this Rex would work. Right now he's pushing off the ground, and then he only speeds up afterwards as he's coming down here, which feels a little odd. It kind of feels like he should start speeding up a little sooner. So, like so, possibly. And this is just one of those things where I like to look in the graph editor as an indication of where things should be in terms of their speed. Whether they should be easing in, easing out, anything like that. So for example, he contacts the ground, or his hips are coming down. He's going to speed up a little bit. Then as he hits the ground, his hips are going to slow down as he's taking that weight. And then they'll stay slow as he's getting ready to push off the ground, and then speed up again. Now, typically with hips, they are very linear. They're not going to always have much of a speed up and slow down. So I don't want to push this too much, or I could very easily get into that feeling of start and stop. So he'll feel like he's just kind of not getting anywhere. So I just have to be very careful of that. I want to get the feeling of pushing off the ground and of speeding up because of the body mechanics, not because of just poor animation. And let's just reduce that a little bit more. Excuse me. Just tweak that a little bit, get it a little bit more subtle. Now, one thing you might notice is if you're trying to frame up on a curve here, and it's just kind of showing as flat and you're not seeing the details in the curves, you can hold down Alt and Shift and then right click and drag to stretch that view a little bit. Now you can see, I can very clearly see this wiggle right there. And come in and fix that compared to the regular view. Same thing here. A little bit of a wiggle there. Okay. So I think that solves the issue of the body being too far forward. So when I get something off of my list, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to cross it out yet, because it could still be an issue. I'll just mark it as addressed. And usually what I do is I'll just underline the number or mark it in some way. And then once I've finished everything on the list, then I'll start crossing them off after I've looked at the play blast. So the next thing on my list is that the hips are going down in time with the feet. So this is a very obvious thing and is killing the weight of the contact. The foot's coming down and contacting the ground. Let's go to this foot here. So the foot starts coming down at the same time as the hips, and they just kind of contact and come down together like so. And it's just feeling very odd. So I want to adjust that a little bit. Ease that in slightly. Because the down pose should be over here. This is the down pose. So I want to ease this in. Now I'll just do this very quickly in the graph editor, or sorry, in the viewport, and then I'll go into the graph editor afterwards. Okay. So I should, let me undo that. I want to show something that can be very helpful when you're adjusting things like this. Just in terms of both not losing anything and also in terms of learning what the curves do in the graph editor, which can be very helpful. One when you're editing a shot, it can be helpful to select all your curves here. I'm just going to select the curves in the graph editor. And actually, I'll save first. Select the curves and go to Curves, Buffer Curve, Snapshot. Next, I can go to View and Show Buffer Curves. Right now it's turned on by default. But what this will do is when I'm adjusting a curve now, I will see a ghost image of where it used to be. You can see it right there. Now, this is helpful for a lot of different things. The main one is kind of as a master undo curve. So I could, let's say I'm adjusting these hips and they're pretty close to looking okay, but I want to try something. I want to do a few tweaks to see if I can make the shot look a little bit more, well, a little better. But I might ruin it as well. I can now make a bunch of tweaks in here. So I'm just going to ruin these hips here. So now the hips are all poppy and they're not working right. And, well, I could hit undo, but maybe I've worked on multiple curves and I've done a bunch of different things. All I need to do is select my curve now and either go to Curves, Buffer Curve, Reference, or hit this, the buffer curve icons are right here in the graph editor. If I hit this one with a double arrow, it'll switch the curves and go back to the one I had before. So now I've got my original animation in there. And if I want to quickly compare which one's better, I can just swap those out, in and out like so. Pick the one I like, and then hit the buffer curve button here and rebuffer it. So now it's saved that new version in there. Oh, can you put all the sequence, please? Do you mean show the play blast of it? Or is there another sequence you want to see? Let's see. So in this case, it's going to be very helpful having this buffer curve, because I'm going to be able to see what my old curve used to be like, and then very quickly compare the animation, see if I've done a better job in showing the weight. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to break up the foot and the hip. So the hip should stay up longer here before coming down in order to really sell that weight. Now I should go a little lower than that. But you can see how the hips come down after that foot is contacted, not while the foot is contacting and pushing down. Breaking that up, making an offset. I also need to make sure that my down pose, which should be here, is actually the down pose. So I'm going to tweak that slightly. So you'll see my curves are all messed up now, but that's fine. I'm not really worried about the curves. Even though I'm working in the graph editor, the reason I'm doing that is so that I can work on, since I've got a two-step cycle, I can work on two poses at the same time. This is another way you can speed up your workflow, especially on a cycle. I can work on both poses here at the exact same time. So I'm just looking at this one, but I know that the next pose in the cycle is being affected as well. So let's push it like that. One thing that I'm not liking about this shot, and I think I have it written down here, is that the up poses are too high. Typically for creatures that are predatory, they don't have very high poses. They tend to stick low to the ground. This gives them more power. If their feet are stretched out like this, it doesn't give them much room to sprint from. Imagine a spring. If you stretch out a spring, it's not going to go anywhere when you let go, or if you just kind of hold it at its straightest. But if you compress it, and then let go, it'll spring out. That's what a predator, or a lot of animals, that's how their back legs are. That's why they've got that bend in them. Like so. They don't straighten their legs like we do as humans. It's so that it acts as a spring, so at any moment they can just go and chase after their prey or hunt. So I'm going to lower these hips a little bit, just so I can get a little bit more of that animalistic look. Oh, Frostlight here, hello! How's it going? So now you can really see how my curves are messing up, so I'll just quickly auto-tangent them. And let's adjust some of these here. So this is my up pose right there. I want to make sure that stays as my up pose. Let's raise that a little bit more. Oh, sorry, those are the contacts. Raise that a little bit. Make sure these are the same value. Since I'm cycling this animation, these two, the first and the last keys have to be the same value, or else I'm going to get a pop in my animation. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Hey Greg, how's it going? Let's see. So, I just need to adjust my tangents here, make sure that I'm getting a nice clean curve, that I don't wobble it, especially on the cycle. This is why I have infinity curves. I covered this last week, but by having infinity curves, I can see how my cycle is going to go, and I don't get this pop where the curve, you can see it doesn't line up really well. Busy and stressful, yeah, animation is like that. Hopefully, if you're working on a term this year, currently, hopefully you'll be able to take a little bit of a break during the holidays, right? Even if you're not animating, hopefully all of you will be able to get some nice holidays in, get to relax a little bit. Let's see. I'm not liking how I've got that little bump right there, so let's lower that a little bit. Like so, and then try to ease that curve in. It's not super important that I do this right away, but it's mostly trying to figure out how to get these keys in place so that I get a nice cycle. Okay, let's see. So now that foot contacts and then the hips go down. It's a very slight change, but let's try to focus up here. So, can't wait for the Xmas break. It's been a tough term. Yeah, this break was always my favorite because it's 2 weeks completely off. It's so nice to have that full 2 weeks and just get away from animation. And that's something that's very important. It's as much as animators, this is our job, and like it is fun. We're working with cartoons, and I'm animating a dinosaur right now. How cool is that? But it is important to have a break from it too, especially when you're learning and you're in classes. Don't burn yourselves out. That's never going to be a good thing. Make sure to take time for yourself. Get some rest. That's going to be super crucial to just having a good, healthy, working life. Okay. So I'm looking at the hips now, and I just want to make sure that it's still working. So the foot contacts, then the weight comes down. Like so. Now if I compare, this is why buffer curves is helpful. I can reference that, and you can see how the hip is almost leading the foot this way. It's very slight, but it feels like the hips are dropping, almost like he's fallen and catching himself afterwards, compared to this, where he takes a step, then his weight comes down. I can push this just a little bit more. more like that. Maybe push that a little lower. So this is why I love buffer curves. It really allows you to see that motion in there. So mark that off of my list. That's being addressed. My next one is that the hips pop upwards. So now this is one of the biggest issues that I had looking at my shot, is the hips just kind of pop upwards here. And this is tied to two things. The first is, well, the hips, if you just look at the graph editor here, we can see exactly where that pop is happening from there to there between these two keys. We'll get this very fast upwards motion. So I could just reduce that a little bit in there. Just kind of offset that so we don't get a huge pop in there. But then the other thing that's causing this is that this foot is lifting off the ground before the hips go up. And that's backwards. The hips should go up and then the foot leaves the ground, because that foot is what's pushing the body off the ground. If that foot's in the air, then all of his weight is being lifted by one leg. That would be very difficult. Imagine just standing up, squatting down, lifting one leg, and then trying to lift yourself back up straight with one leg. That's very difficult. We lift with two legs. We push off with two legs for a walk. A run is slightly different. So for this, what I'll need to do is I'm going to need to adjust my foot poses. So what I need to do is have the foot hold a little longer. It should still be on the ground on frame 10 here. So what I need to do is I'm just going to take the pose from frame 7, move it to frame 10. Yeah. So take the pose from frame 7, middle mouse drag to frame 10, set a key, then take the pose from frame 4 where it's flat, copy that to frame 7. So now that foot stays on the ground longer and then pushes off afterwards. Now I'm going to have to readjust some of the poses here. That's getting too much of a stretch. That leg is way too stretched there. So what else can I do here? Undo this. So if the leg's coming up too soon, let me redo that. So I'll take the foot, and this is whenever you're doing a walk cycle, especially a walk cycle for a fantastical creature that you don't have absolute reference for, this is just a lot of experimenting, of trying to see what works, what doesn't. Because a bird, the way their legs work, they don't have this large upper leg like what we see on a dinosaur here. They basically just have the lower leg and the foot area, and the upper leg is so small that it's actually hidden within the body a lot of the time. So when we're animating something like this, we don't really have any real life counterpart that we can base this off of. So it just becomes a matter of experimentation, applying the mechanics that we know from other creatures like humans or dogs or something like that, and making that work for what we need here. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just creating more of a push off here, where that foot is going to stay longer on the ground and just really push that dinosaur up off the ground there, like this. Now it's not quite right yet. You can see it's actually cutting into the ground, and there's a lot of issues there. I'm going to need a lot more keys in here to get that just right. But let's see. This foot's gonna have to come back. And this foot's gonna have to come back. That's feeling better already. I want to adjust the hips ever so slightly. I want this pose here to start coming up a little sooner. This is so that I can get that push off feeling. Like I said, it's the way it's happening right now, that push off is not reading properly. So I want the down to happen just a little sooner. That way the hips are starting to come up a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that. My cat just woke up. He's yelling. So let's kind of get that working just a little bit better here. Down and then push up right there. Okay, so that's working better. Let's see. Okay, that's showing a little bit more weight already. There's still a pop in the hips, but I think it's going to be just tweaking the translate Y a little bit more right here. Easing that in a little bit more. Kind of avoiding this plateau that's happening. Like so. The next foot I also have to tweak. So I only did the one foot so far. So on this step here, same thing. The foot needs to hold longer on the ground. So copy this pose there. And let's just get it into place here. Now, again, I talked about this in the previous Q&A. This rig here doesn't have a foot roll attribute, so I can't just take one control and slide it to get this kind of peel off motion here. But that's okay. As long as I watch how that foot is peeling and just get this looking okay, I'll be all good. Now, when I scrub through, it's not going to look quite right because his toe cuts into the ground there, but that's just going to be something with in-betweens. Oh, silly question, but what's the music you're playing in the background? It's a holiday Nintendo remix, or playlist. So I love video game music. So here's a link to the playlist there if anyone's interested. It's just basically all Nintendo music that is from like the holiday levels or the winter levels of games. So like Freeze Easy Peaks from Banjo-Kazooie, or the winter levels in Super Mario World and Super Mario 3D World, things like that, or Animal Crossing, the winter themes in Animal Crossing. I find it's very nice music to listen to while I work, because it's still background music. Background music, especially from video games, is great to work with because it's background music. It's supposed to kind of blend into the background, so it doesn't distract you. Have I listened to Bastion's soundtrack? I don't think so. I've always wanted to play Bastion, but I never got around to it, unfortunately, because I've heard it's such a great game. Everyone loves it, but I've never checked it out even. I'll have to definitely check that out. That one, and then someone recommended Final Fantasy X, I believe, in the last stream. That I want to listen to. I always like Final Fantasy music. There's something very peaceful about it, especially Nobuo Uematsu's work. There's just something I love about his style. Just cleaning up some rotation issues here. There you go. Get a little more drag on that foot. Now, another thing that can help with the hips here, with the leg feeling too stretched, is I can always push the rotate Z. And I also have this leg control that I'll be able to use to adjust the feet. Right now, they're not really animated. I haven't touched them yet. But this will help me refine those leg poses and get them to be a little bit more appealing. But, let's see. Bastion, the first thing I think of is Overwatch. Yeah, that's the Bastion I usually think of as well. I don't even know what Bastion, the video game, was about, honestly. I just know it was a really good game. It had great music. And that's really it. I'm not familiar with it. Okay. So, I got the translations. The other thing I need to do on these hips is adjust the rotate Z. The rotate Z is the side to side, which also comes into play with the weight of the character and how they're pressing down on the ground. So just like the translate Y, what's happening right now is the hips are angling before the weight actually goes into the character. So it's feeling very strange. So if we look at it from the back here, you can see how the hips start to rotate this way before a lot of the weight has been put down on the foot. So what I need to do is I just need to adjust this slightly and push that moment when the weight shift happens to after the weight shift, not before. Let's see. You guys need to play it. It's amazing. Never think about Overwatch again. I should play it. That would be a lot of fun. Seems like these small indie games always tend to have great music. Yeah, one game I wanted to play quite a bit. I have it on my Steam wish list, but I need to actually get it one day. Is Owlboy, or is it Owlboy? That one looked really good. Just the sprite work alone in it was amazing. And I'm a fan for any sprite games, personally. It's what I grew up with. Sprite-based games. That and those early PlayStation 1 era graphics, the super blocky kind where the hands were just like a single block polygon cube. There's just something about those graphics that I really like. So let's check the weight here. Okay, that's feeling better. Kind of stops a little too early here though. Let's push this back. I want the weight to really sink into that pose there and not just feel like it hits and then stops. A slow ease into that weight. And you can, again, if we take this along with the rotates, the translate and the rotate. And we'll focus on just this, the hips here, and see what a difference this makes. I grew up on Spyro. Oh, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, and Croc. Those were my favorites growing up for the PlayStation. My brother and I were mostly Nintendo players. That's the console that we had the most games on. But that original PlayStation 1 has such great games on it. What other ones did we have on there? So many. But yeah, Spyro especially. Such good music and gameplay. Sonic, my brother and I didn't get a chance to grow up on it, unfortunately. We grew up on it by proxy. Our cousin had Sonic 2 and 3, and we loved those games. We actually just got Sonic Mania when it came out. But we haven't had a chance to play it yet. And I really want to. It's so good. We played, I think, the Green Hill Zone and the Chemical Zone. Chemical Plant Zone, and that's it. But it's so good. And Tyson Hess, oh, his animation on it is just glorious. Okay. So, if we look at the walk right now, what I'm trying to aim for is the feeling that this foot contacts the ground first. I'm trying to find a good angle here. The foot contacts the ground, and then the hips get that weight change in them. Not that it happens before or at the exact same time. So that's what I'm really aiming for here. And I'm feeling that a little bit better now. If I go back, and again, this is why buffer curves is really helpful. I can just switch back to my old curves there. And if you look here, how as that foot's planting on the ground, look at those hips. They're happening and moving at the same time as that foot plant right there. So that foot plant, if I reverse the curves, you can see how it's just a slight change. Very slight. But it's causing that shift to happen afterwards. And that's going to really sell the weight a lot more, especially once we get the actual foot plant down into there. Really refine that foot movement. You guys are making me feel old. I love old games. But yeah, as soon as I start talking about them, it's like, oh, it wasn't so long ago. And then I actually think about it, and yeah, the 90s were a long time ago. I still, I don't know what it is, but the 90s seem like they were just, like, not that long ago. It's like 10 years, and then suddenly, oh no, wait, that was 20, almost 30 years ago now, at this point. It's just weird. So let's see. I'm looking at my side-to-side motion here of the hips, just making sure that that's not happening too soon either. I think it's good. Yeah. I want that really snaky feeling to the hips. Especially, it's a smaller dinosaur, so I want him to be a little bit more snaky compared to a T-Rex, which is going to be a little bit more just bulky. Have you played an original Atari? I still have one. I never actually grew up with one, but we played the old games on someone else's console. I can't remember whose, but we never owned it. But then our dad was working at a national park as a paramedic. And one day he came home with an Atari and like the original Pac-Man, E.T. That's a must-have. Breakout, which is Block Breaker. And there's another one that he came back with that he found in the dump. Someone had just thrown it into a garbage can, and he just asked them, "Hey, if you're gonna throw it out, can I just take it?" And they went, "Sure." So that was a lucky find. Oh, take care, Sin. Best of luck helping out the classmate. But yeah, I still have all of my old consoles, luckily. I know a lot of people end up losing their consoles or having to sell them to make room and things like that. I've still got all my old games and everything, which is a lot of fun. Let's see. So I just finished the hips. I'm just going to address those notes. So hips pop up, got that. Got more weight in the hips, got that. Let's see. The rotate Y and rotate Z of the hips feel odd. I should double check the rotate Y. Actually look at the curves, make sure that that's looking right. So, yeah, there's a little bit of a hit right in here. So let's clean that up. Yeah, right there. That cycle isn't working right. So that's going to be causing issues. Whenever you're using infinity cycles, it's always a good idea to check the start and beginning using post and pre-infinity, like so. Just make sure that it's cycling properly and that you're not getting some odd hitch. Because then when you're playing your animation back, it's going to be hard to actually tell whether your animation is broken or if it's actually just fine. I've seen so many animations where you put a cycle on it and you hit play and it looks terrible. Everything you've done just, it's popping and it just looks awful. And all it is a matter of making sure that the in and out point of the cycle, like right here, has smooth tangents going in and out. All of a sudden, my cycle is going to look great. And this is especially important. It's easy to tell on like the big things like the translates, but if you don't do this to the rotates as well, it's always going to have a little hitch. And even though you get the rest of your animation perfect, that hitch is always going to remain until you actually clean those tangents up. You can see in the buffer curves right there how it had that wobble to it. Okay. So the rotate Y, the hips. This is the up and, or sorry, this angle here. It should lead the leg. So actually here it should probably come forward a little bit more. I need to bring up my planning just to make sure I have poses right. Okay. So, on the down pose here, I want the... Oops, not looking at the right timing chart on my planning here. There you go. Okay, so on the down pose, I want the hips to lead a little bit more. They're leading a little bit, but not quite enough. And the reason I want this is to get that feeling that the hips are leading the legs and not the legs dragging the hips behind them. It's a very slight difference, but it's going to make quite a bit of a difference in terms of the character feeling like they're dragging their body versus pushing their body. And in a walk, what you're doing is your body is leading, and you're not kind of pushing yourself forward all the time. It's a controlled fall. If we were having to push ourselves or pull ourselves forward all the time, basically dragging ourselves along with our feet, we wouldn't get anywhere. We'd tire ourselves out way too quickly. So I want, as he's coming down here and about to raise this foot, that hip needs to already be leading like that. I don't want to go too far, or else I won't have anywhere to go. But something like that. And again, it makes a slight difference when you look at the walk, especially from the top here, and look at those hips. How it feels like the hips are starting the motion and then the leg comes through, versus the leg just kind of moving on its own and the hip being kind of attached to it and moving somewhat together. So it's those little things. It's easy to underestimate how much of a difference it will do to your animation. So I can mark that down. Next one is, I wrote it down here, I need to raise the hips earlier or keep the feet on the ground longer. I already addressed that. Again, I numbered all of these, but it doesn't mean I always have to do them in that exact order that I numbered them. For example, I was working on the hips, and I wanted to finish that up and down motion, which affected the feet as well. So even though I numbered that as something I had to fix later on, I fixed it earlier because at the time it was important. Your list is not final. It's not like I put it down on paper. It has to be this way, this order that I'm going to do these in. It can change at any time. We're the animators, we get to decide when we address something, when it's relevant. This is just to help me keep track of everything so that I'm not forgetting anything, or that I don't have to keep nitpicking on one thing at a time. So, for example, we've been doing this for an hour-ish, like in between talking and chatting and all of that good stuff. And I've already finished 6 things on my list. So 6 items that I saw, 6 problems in my shot are fixed. Now, are they finalized yet? No, I haven't play blasted my shot yet. But I have them marked down. I know I've addressed them. It's not that kind of mental game of, oh, I have to do this. Oh, wait, did I address that? Oh, wait, maybe I should double check that. Make sure I actually address that. Especially when you've got a list of 20 or 30 things that you have to do. That mental juggling is tiring. It slows you down. So make that list. It's going to be super helpful. What do you use for raptor reference? Chickens? I use bigger birds. Chickens, they are close relatives of raptors. Well, close. 65 million years close. But I used larger birds. So things like ostriches, emus. But the one that I used the most, especially for the feet and the kind of basic predatory motion, is a cassowary. So I can actually share, let me find the reference I have here. And save my scene first before I forget. Always save your scene, especially if you're going to do something else. Save your scene. So I'm just going to show a little bit of the reference I have. Okay. So ostriches, of course, because of the size, they're a little bit bigger than the Jurassic Park raptors. So that was one reference I was using, especially for the feet, the foot poses here, because they've got the 3 toes. That helps a lot there. But again, this is something I addressed before, but see how their leg structure is different? With most birds, it looks like they have backwards facing knees, because people assume that's the knee for the bird. The knee is actually way up here, and what we're seeing right there is the heel of the foot. So it's quite a different bone structure from the dinosaur right there, where we get that knee, which is very prominent. So I'm using this very loosely as reference, but the one I'm using the most is cassowaries, because cassowaries are very prehistoric looking birds, especially if you look at the male. So here's some very good close-up of the feet, again, of the feet picking up and pushing off the ground. But that's a cassowary. They're very dangerous birds. They attack people. They're They're just very aggressive in general. And it just has a very raptor-like look to it. So that's my main reference. I'm also using more predatory animals like cats, things like large cats, because their back leg structure is very similar in the sense of the leg and the just the leg bones. A cassowary. It's a cassowary. I never know actually how to pronounce it properly. It's a cassowary. Ostriches aren't kind either. Yeah, ostriches are pretty mean. But cassowaries, they will attack you with their feet and actually like cut you up pretty bad. And then they've got that ridge on their head that they'll hit you with, and they've got the beak. It's just a vicious animal all around, and they've got very bad tempers. That's with things like dinosaurs, dragons. I want to use the word fantastical. Dinosaurs don't really fall into the fantastical range because, well, they are actual animals that existed. But they kind of fall into it because there's no reference. We have no reference for how a dinosaur would move. So what we need to do is mix and match different animals. So just kind of going back to the back leg thing, it's a very big problem when you're trying to animate and look for reference because there you go. If you look at the back leg of a let me just double check my RAM here. Things seem to be freezing up a little bit. All good. So if you look at a bird, don't freeze on me. That'll help. Okay, it's because I had two windows open of the same document. Okay, so a bird here is on the left, a raptor is on the right. If you look at the bone structure, you have a very short upper leg compared to a very long upper leg. Then you have the lower leg, foot, and then toes. Let's do that in pink. Toes. So we have very different bone structure. And the other thing is, birds have a little nub of a tail. Dinosaurs have long tails. That throws off the balance of the animal as well. A good example of that is this reference of a shoebill bird, which if you don't know what a shoebill is, you've probably seen it if you played Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. The shoebill is the bird that they based the birds in Skyward Sword off of. So this one here. And this is a stork-like bird, so it's a wading bird. It lives in like deep water and whatnot, feeds off fish. But you'll see it, the way it stands is very, very straight. Dinosaurs would not stand like this because their tail is used for balance. It needs to stand this straight because the size of its beak, if it stood horizontally, more horizontally, it would just tip over. It couldn't keep itself balanced. It has to stand up straight. If it had a tail like a dinosaur did, it could then stay horizontal. And if you look at their feet, just look at those feet there. The splay that they need in order to keep themselves balanced, as well as to not sink when they're in the water. So, they're really cool birds to look at. But all of that kind of, when we're applying reference to a shot, like with the raptors here, it can be very easy to try and copy reference, and this applies to dragons and other fantastical creatures. But you can never really copy the reference. What you need to do is interpret the reference in order to make it your own and make it feel like that animal is real. And it's not just a Frankenstein mishmash of different animals. It kind of has to be made into its own, which is difficult at times. But that's a lot of that comes, that ability to kind of deconstruct it comes from basic body mechanics. So like when I'm talking about the weight shifts and how the hips have to move before the feet, or that it has to start going up before the foot pushes off. All of that kind of comes into play into figuring out how the dinosaur should move. I've got the basics from my reference, and then I'm filling in the blanks with my knowledge of body mechanics. Yeah, mishmash of different animals could be really cool. And I've seen a few shots like that where they really stick to certain animal types for a creature and kind of mix them together. Not so much that you can distinctly tell, oh, the front legs are this and the back legs are that, but it's different enough that it feels alien. It doesn't feel like it's a whole creature. It feels like at any time it could change its behavior, which really adds a cool, I don't know what the right word would be, unexpectedness to it. I don't want to say randomness, but it almost makes it scarier. It's almost like it turns into a more of a monsterish feeling, something that doesn't feel natural, which can be really cool, especially if you're animating a monster for a horror film or something like that. So I've got that going now. Let's see. So the next thing on my list, again, this is why lists are important, because we just went on a huge tangent. I can go right back and figure out exactly where I was. And this happens when you're animating. Sometimes you'll get a phone call, or you might have to get up and stretch your legs or something like that. Lists help with that as well. It keeps your workflow going even if you have to take a break. So the next thing on my list is that the foot spacing is feeling really strange. And I can see this from the top as well. If you watch the spacing of the knee as it's coming forward, it just kind of pops forward right there. And I don't like that. It's just feeling very... It just doesn't look right. So I'm just going to come in here and look at my Translate Z spacing for the feet. And see if I can spot what is causing the issue. So I know that the foot has to ease in slightly before the contact, and that it has to ease out. Now, it could probably ease out a little bit more, and kind of ease in a little less. So what I'm doing here, when I'm looking at the graph editor, I'm not using the graph editor in the sense of what it's typically used for, which is refining a shot and cleaning up your tangents and all of that stuff. That's kind of final polish stuff. But you can still use the graph editor as a very helpful tool. And in this case, what I'm doing is I'm using it to look at the speed of the foot visually. So we have this ease in, ease out. And let me just revert the curve back here, just so we can see. Oops. So the ease in, ease out of the foot was so extreme that it was causing a pop. So this was kind of like that, and then this was here. And there's this very fast moment here in the center. So I can just look at my graph editor and go, okay, I'll smooth that out, make it a little more linear, but not so linear that it's actually linear. And I can do that just right here in the graph editor very quickly. It just kind of gives me that visual control. And then before I move on, I want to double check that. Never tweak things in the graph editor just blindly. Always double check in the viewport, because the viewport is the most important part. The graph editor is just a tool. It would be like the channel box. We wouldn't just look at the channel box and look at numbers. We need to look at what the audience is going to see at the end. So that already helps a lot there. Let's see. Let's do the other foot here. So picks up off the ground. Might move this slightly forward. And this one looks like it was already pretty good in terms of speed. Okay. And then we have this very slow contact right now. This is going to change. I'm going to refine the foot, add in more frames once I get the main movement down here. The other thing I need to watch out for is the arc of the foot, the up and down. So let's take a look at the translate Y of both feet. Make sure that, just not rotate Y, but the translate Y. Make sure that's making sense. So it peels off the ground, comes up. Should probably hang up a little bit more. Right now you can see how it's just this very linear line. And I'm going to ease it into the ground a little bit more, like so. Now it comes up again. Let's raise that. This is going to change when I refine the actual foot position on the ground and get that peel working. And then hangs a little bit. Might need to raise this ever so slightly. Probably lower this one. I don't want it too high off the ground. Most creatures, when they're walking, they tend to be very lazy. And that's not to say that they're dragging their feet or anything like that, but most creatures, when they're walking, they don't want to expend energy as they're walking. Wasting energy is not good, and it's just going to make you have to eat sooner and make you have to hunt more, and it's just a waste of energy. So most creatures don't raise their feet all that much when they're walking, especially larger creatures. It's why elephants can't run. Elephants, it is impossible for them to actually run. They can just walk very fast because they can't lift their feet high enough because of all their weight. And they can't get the 2 feet off the ground or something like that for an actual, what's the definition of a run. Okay. So that's in place there. Mark that off. Let's see, I've got foot contacts need more refining and foot slipping. So I'll kind of address both of those together because they're kind of the same thing. So this is the part that's going to take a little bit more finessing and time. We're going to have to start adding in a lot more keys. But at the same time, this is the part that's going to really start selling the weight and the physicality of the feet. So let's see. And I want to write down a note here before I forget. Make sure I don't forget to animate and adjust the PV controls and these upper leg controls here. That's going to be very important. Okay. So at this point, I just need to animate the contacts and the lifting of the foot. So that's going to be very simply just adding some frames here. So I need 2 keys right there, and then on the foot lift, probably 4 keys right there. So I need to add in a total of 6 keys just to make sure that all of this is reading really well. So one thing I do want to adjust is bring those toes in a little bit more on the contact here. That way I have more room to splay them out later. that foot splaying out is going to be very helpful in getting the weight in there. Okay. So, take everything and set a key. Now at this point, I've started working in the graph editor a little bit. I've started refining certain things. I don't want to just hit S to set a key anymore, especially when I'm adding in a new key. The reason for this is it might destroy some of the keys that I've already put in, the tangents, and make the curves all wobbly and a mess. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the graph editor, select my curves here, and use the insert key tool. I'll just select that, and then middle mouse click where I want to add some keys. And what this does is it just makes sure that the keys that I've set aren't going to be changed, and that the keys around them aren't going to be changed, and the curve stays the same. So as a quick example of this, let me see if I can find something that I've tweaked. So let's say I wanted to set a key here. You can see if I buffer this curve here and hit S to set a key, look what's happened. It's very slight, but it can be way worse than this. It's created this little wiggle right here. Right there. And you can see if I undo how it's just ever so slightly adjusting that curve. And this happens because when you hit S to set a key, it doesn't incorporate the tangents around that key that you set. So if I hit S, the tangents on this key and this key stay exactly the same, which creates a pinching motion in the curve, and you get little wobbles and distortions. This can be really bad if you're really adjusting the curves and the tangent lengths. So instead, if I hit the insert key button here and then middle mouse click, what that'll do is it'll insert a key and then adjust the tangents on either side so that the curve stays exactly the same and doesn't change. So it's a very important tool, especially when you reach this kind of point where you're refining and cleaning up your animation. Is going to be very important in that case. Let's see. So I've set a key here, and let's see. I want to get it to contact a little sooner. A little faster contact there. Now we've got a little bump, that's fine. I'm going to clean that up in just a second. And just refine this foot pose here. Whenever you're animating something like this, feet contacting or just this very specific motion of pressing down on something, a lot of the time it's just a matter of going in there and getting it done, of putting things where they need to be. A lot of times there's not going to be a specific tool, or oh, if I just use this one control, it's going to get me 90% of the way there, kind of thing. A lot of the time it's just going to be put it where it needs to be. And you just frame through it and you'll get it. So let's see. I'm just going to double check my curves here. Translate. Okay, I want it to ease. Here's the little wiggle that I was getting before. I'm going to clean that out when I actually put in a key. So get this nice solid contact in there. Let's set another key here. So again, insert a key and refine it. So the first thing I need to do is adjust my translate Y here. I don't have this little pop. And the reason it didn't insert a key on me for me there. So again, insert key. There you go. So I just need to take this and I'll zero it out. Nope. Or match it to the other key. That way I have this nice flat in there. I don't have that pop. Now what I can do is maybe push it down ever so slightly just to get a little bit of a bounce, so it kind of feels like if it squashes a little bit and then comes up. Oh, can you insert key without graph editor open? Unfortunately not. At least not that I know of. I've never really looked. Usually I always work with the graph editor anyway, open, either like this setup here or on another monitor. So I use that. Let's see, can I right click keys? No, you can just set a key here. Yeah, key selected. There's no insert. One thing I do want to do as I'm animating this foot press is make sure that I'm getting some forward translation. And this is one of those things that people will often overlook. Is as the foot's coming down, a lot of people just have the foot contact and then pivot from the heel or however it hits the ground. The feet, especially if you're animating someone who's barefoot, the foot is flesh. It's just skin that's on top of bone. Now if you look at my skin, I can press my hand against my arm here and then move my hand up and down. I'm not sliding it. It's just my skin. You can see I pinch my arm and I can move my hand up and down because my skin stretches. Skin is stretchy. So when our feet contact the ground, they slide and give a little bit. So to get a more organic contact, instead of having it just kind of come down and stay exactly where it is, I can have the foot, and this is again where the graph editor can come in handy, because you can get really refined motions from here. Have it slide into place, ever so slightly, like that. And let's reduce this a little bit. Again, the graph editor, I like to use it, or the reason I have it all open all the time is you can find errors, you can use it for all sorts of things, but especially for small motions. You can see by opening the graph editor and scaling my view, I can get really minute motion in here that would be next to impossible to try to do in the viewport. So I can really refine my shot to the exact amount of detail I want right in there. So there you go. That. Now the toes, I need to make sure that they're rotate X, I believe. No, rotate Z. Is not popping. Use that in a little bit. We're getting some really jazzy trumpet today. the music. I actually want to raise these toes here. And another thing the graph editor is great for is I've got a hold on these toes here where they don't really move. I can just very quickly adjust the whole range of animation there without having to go one frame at a time. So, just a great way of very quickly refining something if I need to. Let's see. I need to adjust my rotate Y on these toes here. Right now you can see how they go quickly and then they hold and then spread out again at the end there. I need to make sure that it's just a constant spread all the way to the push off here, or near constant. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to buffer this curve here. Oops, don't move it. And then just delete all these keys in the middle. Now I can just use the insert key tool to add in some keys and very quickly get a very simple curve in here. Something like that. So now this toe is just going to go quickly and then ease out at the end there. So I quickly built in that curve without having to go one key at a time. And then I can just go in and add in, insert those keys back in, just so I'm not relying on just the basic in-betweens there from Maya. And I have a little bit more control maybe if I want to push one part of the foot a little bit more. Maybe I'll have it hold just a little bit at the beginning there. Something like that. Let's see. How does that look? Need a little bit of a hold. There you go. And then if I wanted to, I could add a little bit of rotate X in there. So you can see how the rotate X isn't really doing much right now. So I can just take this and let's push the rotation. So if it's pushing on the ground, I think it would rotate this way. Get a little bit of rotation in there. And again, let's delete those keys in there. And just quickly build in that curve. What happens to the old curve? When you insert a key or when you buffer the curve. If you insert a key, it doesn't. It's just adding another key. But if you buffer a curve, the old curve is just in the history. So you can see it's just kind of a ghost of itself there. I can then switch it using the swap buffer curve button right there. And then it just switches the active curve with the old one. So you can just swap them. And then when you know which one you like, you can just rebuffer it to make a new snapshot. Okay. So that's working okay. I might reduce the amount of rotation or have it happen a little sooner here. on the press down. I didn't like how it was kind of just... It felt like it was sliding a little too much. Will having too many buffer curves make Maya laggy? No. So right now I actually have buffer curves on every single curve of my character. Because whenever I'm about to start doing some major tweaking, or even small tweaking, I'll just hit select all, like so. Select the curves in the graph editor, just select everything. And there you go. Select everything, and just hit buffer curve. Now every single curve of this character is buffered, and I've just kind of got a little safety net. It's basically just saving it in memory, but it's not actually using it, so it's not slowing things down. And it's not auto recalculating or anything like that, so there really is no slowdown that would happen. Okay, so again, same thing with this toe. I want to create a hold with it. So, repeat, or rinse and repeat, same thing. And this is one of those things where this is where I would turn on some more energetic music, or I could listen to a TV show in the background or something like that, because at this point I'm just doing very basic stuff, and it's just a matter of working through it. Try to avoid that little pop in the toes right there. Let's see. I kind of want those up higher on these frames. That's better. And then let's add some rotate X in there as well. It's not needed, but adding in a few different axes of rotation can really be nice in just kind of getting a slightly more organic feel to something, even if it's not much. Okay, add in that rotate X. That one is on the wrong joint. I want to add the rotate X here. Okay, so the toe should rotate that way. Let's get rid of all of that. And insert some keys. Get a little bit more of a hold and get a little bit more control on this curve. Something like that, and insert a key. There we go. That. There you go. Now I need to get this one done, because as you can see, it's kind of got a little wiggle where it kind of goes out to the right and then comes back to the left a little bit. That looks really weird. So let's just clean this up right up until there. Oh, did someone just follow? I think I missed it. Oh no, how do I figure out who followed? Gotta be somewhere that... Oh wait, I think I know. Oops. That's not what I wanted. Let's see. Is it Indie Respawn? If so, thank you very much for the follow. That's really appreciated. I'm pretty new to these streams. This is my 4th stream, and I still need to figure out how to get everything set up. I'm terrible at trying to get everything figured out on these on streams like this. I don't know why. I've been doing Q&As and stuff for years now, but as soon as it comes to Twitch, it's just like I'm totally lost at times. But that's half the fun. It's actually I really enjoy the kind of discovering of how to do things. I just love this kind of environment and medium, I guess you could say. The live medium of getting to chat with people and do things like this all on camera instead of having it recorded. I'm not that I'm not good at or not comfortable with recording things, but with recording things, especially like YouTube videos or lectures and things like that, you never know if people will like what you did, or if you don't know if it's going to turn out right until afterwards. And if something isn't or didn't go right, you won't know until it's too late. Whereas with streaming or something like this, if something's not going right, you guys can let me know right away. It's not that kind of waiting game of, oh, I hope it's working, and oh, maybe not. I'll have to wait till next time to do it right. If there's something that you guys want, or if you have a question, I can just address it right away, and it's all good. So I really like this kind of stuff. Plus, it's always just fun to hang out. Let's see. Okay, I just need to add a little bit of rotate X in this. I like to add the rotate X because it kind of adds the rotation pressure, I guess you could say, of the foot. Oh, Danny Delgado, thank you. Thank you for the follow. That's really appreciated. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks, Abia. I'm glad. Hey, you took the My Workshop for my brother? That's awesome. That's why your name sounded familiar. I hope you had a lot of fun in there. Oh, what is my YouTube? I actually don't have a YouTube of my own. Most of the stuff I do for YouTube is for Animation Mentor, for example, or for other people. So, I don't have one of my own. I should make one of my own just to post videos and little updates and things like that, tutorials. Maybe that'll be the next project. Brian D. Hansen, you took a class from my brother as well? That's awesome! I've got all his old classmates, or his students now, haha! But that's awesome that you're all in his class. So, I just wanted to show this here. We've taken a little time to refine this foot motion, and just by adding a few keys, tweaking a few curves, you can see the difference it makes. We're not done yet, but you can see now when it plants that foot, we get this really solid contact, and then the toes feel like they're pressing and taking the weight of the character, like so. Now later on we can offset those so that they don't feel like they're splaying out at exactly the same time. But for now, this is good. Compared to this contact here, where the toes cut into the ground and then they just freeze and there's no weight. Now you watch that. As the foot hits the ground, it just hits and sticks. Compared to hits and then presses in. Now, one thing I'm not liking is the way the heel just kind of pops down there. I might need to just adjust the translate Z motion a little bit more. So, bring that back a little bit. It's better. I try to avoid having it feel like the foot stops and then goes straight down. I want that swooping motion in there. Let's see. So that's good for now. And now I just need to do the push off. And then once I do that, I repeat the whole thing for the other foot. But we'll see if I do that on screen or off screen. We'll see. But let's see. Let's do the push off here. So again, like I mentioned before, I just need to add some more frames in here to make sure that this push off is working well. I can also adjust this pose here. Make sure it's not cutting into the ground. Let's see. Get my curves working right on the main foot first. I don't want to start adjusting a bunch of other things before getting this foot control working properly, or else I might end up just having to redo a bunch of stuff. Let's see, looking good. That IREX rig is so fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Is there a heel depression control on the rig yet? Unfortunately not. The heel is kind of just flat there. There are quite a few heel controls, but no heel depression, unfortunately. And no foot roll that I could find. Like you have on most other rigs. Which isn't too bad because it's a simple toe setup. So it's not too hard to kind of just... I don't want to say strong arm it, but basically strong arm it. Right now I'm just making sure the toes don't slide. Let's see. Just out of curiosity, how much do you play with the new rig before animating it? Do you pose it out to see how far the rig will go before it deforms, or see what poses are the most appealing? I do a little bit of that. So before even touching this animation and setting a key, I spent quite a bit of time just exploring all the controls on the rig and becoming familiar with what they did, how they worked. So that's how I know that there's no actual foot roll on this rig. Like you would see on other rigs. And by doing that first, that's what allowed me to make sure that I'm not... I think I adjusted on the wrong frame there. It helps me make sure that I am approaching the shot logically, for lack of a better word. That I'm not just kind of animating things willy-nilly. Now, the other thing that I do whenever I'm working on a shot with a new rig is I'm going to do an animation test, and this is what this shot is right now. This is not an actual shot. This is not something I'm going to put on my reel or anything like this, or anything like that. This is an animation test. I'm doing this so that I can learn how to use the rig properly. That way when I get into the actual animation, something that's more dynamic and cool, I'm not having to learn the rig and trying to both learn the rig, find out what works, what doesn't, and learn the body mechanics of how this creature should move. That's especially important for like a fantastical creature. So let's see, the walking cycle animation should be the play with the rig. Yeah, exactly. That is what I'm doing right now. This is the play with the rig stage right now. And that's why when you're doing things like an animation mentor or any school, they have you do walk cycles first, because that's one of the best ways to learn how to use a rig without doing anything that's overly complicated or that's going to cause you to pull your hair out while you're trying to figure out how to even move the character. Excuse me. So let's see. This foot can just be lowered ever so slightly there. Okay. So I think I've got the main... Oh. Yeah, I've got the main motion in there. Now I need to start adding some more keys in there. Let's see. Still walks are so hard. Yeah, they are. But that's what makes it worth it in the end. Because if it was too easy... And I've seen people do this actually, where they're going to do, oh, I just need an animation test. I'll have the character just wave and something like that. That's good for learning certain things. But the reason walk cycles are so good is that they are difficult, and it challenges you to figure out solutions to a shot instead of getting too complacent. It's not really complacent, but without just having the shot be too easy, where you don't run into issues. So you assign extra time to playing with the rig on a job? It depends on the studio. Typically, when you're working on a project at a studio, they're going to give you time before the actual project, before the actual animation opens up, where you're just going to be animating a character. They're character tests. And this is something that a lot of the animators will do, is they'll just play with the rig, figure out how far to push it, how the character is going to move. It's all part of discovering the character and finding like the walk cycle. Everyone's going to animate different walk cycles, and then they see which one works best and kind of figure out that character's specific walk cycle. So it's kind of getting two birds with one stone kind of thing. The animators get to test the rigs and get more familiar with them. And the production gets to actually start producing things like the character animation, or character development, I should say. So this is the tricky part when you're doing small movements like this, is getting, like, for example, the toes to not slip and slide or pop. And this is just a matter of going in there and frame by framing. It's tedious, it's boring, but it's necessary. Luckily, a lot of the times it doesn't take that long. It seems like it takes more time than it actually does. So you can see how already that push off there is much stronger than it was just a little bit before. And it's just a matter of framing through. I'm gonna push that down slightly. Like that. Next frame, again, you can see how we've got that pop. I'll just go there, set a key, and do the same thing. There's no magic formula about it. There's no shortcut to do it super quick. It really is just a matter of going in and adjusting by hand. I noticed a little spacing issue with the foot coming up, so I'm just adjusting the rotations here. The heel, as the heel comes up, it should ease out, and it wasn't quite easing right. So, just get that right before I move forward. Typically, you want to find those issues early before you get too far. Those little spacing issues like that, especially when you're animating something like toes here, because if you don't, you're just going to do a lot of work for nothing and then have to redo it again later. So just something to keep in mind. But you see, I caught it early. I just had to do a few small tweaks and I'm good. Now I go to this pose and have to get the toes back into place again. So just go in frame by frame. And make sure my spacing is working the way I want it to. Okay, I think this toe is pretty close to done. And this is the fun part about animation. A lot of people hate this part, and it can be very tedious. But there's something about realizing that you're animating a toe that is both amazingly tedious, and you have to start thinking, what am I doing with my life? Because I'm animating a toe. That's my goal right now, is I'm animating a toe. And it just sounds so sad. But at the same time, it's so much fun because I'm animating a toe. I'm at the point where I'm going down to the fine detail of making sure this toe raises up properly. And it's what I find really cool about animation specifically is if you look at things like acting, an actor will focus on their acting, on getting their performance really good. And that's basically where it stops a lot of the times. They're not going to think about, oh, okay, when I'm shooting this scene, oh, I've got to raise this eyebrow just a little bit more. Oh, I should splay out my pinky out a little bit more on this retake here. They're not thinking of that. They just act it out naturally. We as animators, when we're animating something like this, not only do we have to think of the performance and make sure that we're getting a believable acting, but we have to go down to the toe level, or to the tiniest little detail, and make sure it's working. And that's something that you don't see in any other field, really, because they don't have to do that. So, like this push off right here. Most people, aside from animators, would never even consider trying to get the toe spacing to work properly. It just wouldn't be part of their thought process. Okay, I'm almost done on these two poses. Oh, I got a little pop in there. And I get quiet at these points here. Just trying to Keep my spacing in mind. Oh, and that's kind of inspiring. Yeah, it's when I first learned that about animators and just the amount of detail people will put in to their shots. People take it differently. I've seen people just go, "No, that's not for me. I'm done. I'm not going to be spending my life animating a toe or whatever it is." And then other people have the complete opposite, where it's just like, I have absolute control over every single element of this shot. And once you realize that, that you are, to put it bluntly, the master of this character's world and how they move through it, not just in the fact that, oh, they move forward, but how they do it, from all the way down to the toe or the finger or the hair. Hair is sometimes simulated, so we don't always have to do that, luckily. But down to the finest detail. That's pretty cool to me. So let's select all this, and I'm going to set a couple of keys here. Put a key here and here. And I set 2 keys because I know I'm going to need them, so I might as well start refining them both together at the same time. Reminds you of the creator versus creation idea. Yeah, it's a very Zen philosophy in a way. Just that idea of at what point does the creation take over or become believable? And at what point does it kind of leave the creator's hands in that sense? Where it's kind of stands on its own and isn't just this thing that I've created, but it is a creature all on its own. Because if you look at the shot, the play blast that I did of this shot before we even got started today, when I looked at it this morning before even jumping into my animation, it did not look alive. It looked like it was moving, it was animated, but I didn't feel life from it. And when you start doing things like this, it's always interesting to try and figure out at what point did that life kick in? At what point did the creature go from, oh, it's moving, to, no, wait, this creature is alive. It's actually living and breathing and thinking. Let's see. Kind of reminds me of this creator, as well as being sad for the character knowing that his life is in his control. Yeah, it is kind of sad to think of it that way. These characters that we love and have kind of adored our whole lives, not actually alive. Kind of sad. Let's see. So this toe needs to come up quite a bit more. The foot's gonna have to slide forward a little bit as well. It's slipping back. I think this song's from Tales of Symphonia, if I remember correctly. I always loved this song. really get this push here. And move it forward ever so slightly. I don't like that feeling of slipping that I'm getting right there. If you watch the toe, how it kind of starts to slip right there. Not a fan of that. There's going to be a little bit of slipping because, of course, he's pushing down into the dirt and whatnot, but it was way too much. Let's see. Do you have an animation playlist that you listen to while animating, or you just randomly listen to stuff? A lot of times I'm just going to listen to Rainwave. It's an online radio station. If no one knows what it is, I can give you the link here. Which is just video game music. Both chiptune, so just like the 8-bit music. That's what I typically listen to when I'm working. Or just other remixes and things like that. I also listen to like whatever I'm interested in that day. So for a while I was actually listening to Metal Gear Solid soundtracks, all the vocal soundtracks from that game. That was a lot of fun. I've never played those games, but I love the music and the lore of those games. But yeah, there's no specific playlist that I'll listen to when I'm working. It's more just a whatever I feel like listening to that day. I find if I try to force myself to, oh, this is the music that's going to inspire me. I've listened, or people have told me that classical music is good to listen to when I'm working because it's going to inspire me or something. There's all sorts of theories and stuff on things like that. I find I spend too much time thinking about the music or how it's supposed to be working compared to just enjoying the music, which is the point. So yeah, I don't have a specific playlist, but I will say I tend to listen to video game music. Mostly because that's my childhood. Video game music is just, I grew up with that. Video games are a huge part of my life, even though I don't play them nearly as much as I would love to. Anymore, mostly because of work and life. But there's a pop in the foot here. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I like to listen to, and especially because it's so it's background music, so it doesn't distract really, but you also don't just ignore it. Let's see. My drawing painting teacher always had it blasting. Yeah, any type of music, if you're forced to listen to it, can get so tedious so quickly. That's another reason why I don't have an animation specific playlist, because I don't want to reach a point where a certain type of music reminds me of work. So I don't want to have it to the point where, oh, I listen to this song and suddenly, as soon as I hear it, the only thing I can think about is animation, and I have to work with this, and just that kind of tedium of music, where the music just reminds you of, it's not really unpleasant things, but it's not relaxing anymore. The reason I want to listen to music while I'm working is to relax my brain and to make me kind of think and kind of refresh my brain, not make it angry, for lack of a better word. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. I have some music to get me pumped up before I animate, but while I animate, it's just film soundtracks. Nice. Yeah, that's another way to do it. If there's a soundtrack that it just inspires you, or another thing that I've seen people do is just watch some clips of cartoons before they start animating, especially if you're going to be animating in a very specific style. That can be very helpful in just kind of inspiring you to animate in that style. So I'm gonna have to redo this quick contact here. That's fine. And then let's see. I see you preventing the nails to go into the ground, and I can't stop thinking that in many cases this character would rip the ground off. I know in the real shot you would probably know which kind of ground he's walking over, but what do you do in a test? You choose one, or just consider it cement. You basically choose what ground you would like. In this case, I'm imagining dirt. So if the claws cut through the ground, which they do, you can see like right there, they are right through the ground there. And that's not a problem for me, because if he's going to push off, he's not going to push off the toenail. He might a little bit if it's harder ground, but I'm just imagining soft dirt. That way I'm not having to deal with all of the nail issues. And later on, what I would like to do is kind of make it look like he's scratching into the dirt, with some bullet physics, or yeah, it's bullet, I think. So it really is up to you. What do you want the shot to be? And it doesn't mean you have to make a set or create this environment to showcase that it's dirt. You can just do it on a plain ground like this, and just make your animation believable that it's ground. Okay. Then I need just to copy these poses onto this contact here. So to do this, I'm going to take frame. And that's on contact. Oh no, wait, I won't need to copy it. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Make sure I save. Bullet physics. I remember you showed us a bit of that a while ago. Yeah, I'm hoping to do some demos on like lighting and rendering and all of that stuff within these streams, because we have more time to dedicate to it. We're not stuck in a 1 hour, 2 hour limit. If it's going to take 6 hours to do a render setup, I can do it all in here, then later on cut down everything to fit into a reasonable time so people don't have to watch a 6-hour recording. Let's see. Did you graduate from AM in 2013 or 14? What year did we graduate? Technically, I think we graduated in 2012. And then we took workshops afterwards. So our path through AM was different than most people. We went through the program and we were actually hired by AM, or technically hired by AM, when we were in class 3, because we were helping so much in the Q&As, and we were always around anyway, that they had us just run the Q&As for the school, like the extra Q&As, campus Q&As and things like that, since we were already there. And then we just kind of took on more responsibilities as the years went on, or sorry, as the months went on. And then we ended up helping them create a lot of the workshops, so the creature workshops and stuff. Not that we helped them create it, but we helped test it. So we went through all of the workshops and helped refine them, make sure the assignments weren't too hard, too easy, kind of from a new person's perspective. Because at the time we were still pretty new to animation. We'd never done animation beforehand, before AM. So going into the creatures workshop, we still had just kind of the bare bones level of knowledge at that time. So it was a good test to make sure that most people wouldn't get overwhelmed in the creatures workshop, or where it would just kind of break people. Let's see. Yeah, I remembered one of you guys helped me out once. Oh, that's awesome. I hope it was helpful help. Let's see. So I think I've got this foot pretty much done. One thing I do want to do now, before I move on to the other foot, which that's going to be a whole lot of work. Oh, I'm glad it was helpful. What I want to do is I want to animate this control right here. Because right now, I'm getting some knee pops in the leg right here as it's coming forward. And I think going in with this control is going to help me solve those. So what I might do... Let's see, how do I want to progress with this? Well, first of all, let's focus from one angle at a time. That's always helpful. So I'm going to focus from the side view, and what I'm going to try to do is I want to get the angle of the upper leg and the foot to be kind of parallel. This is where the dinosaur anatomy is going to differ from bird anatomy. With birds, let's go back to my planning here. You'll see that the bone up here is not parallel with the foot here. It's just two totally different angles from there to there. Whereas with more cat-like, or with a bone structure like this bone tends to kind of parallel that bone. It's not always locked in, but it has a relationship with it. So if I go through here, I can start adjusting this, and if I just watch that bone angle, I can start to kind of refine this leg motion. And I'm also, as I'm doing this, I'm looking at the actual spacing and things. But it can help to create a more natural look to the walk. One thing I want to specifically avoid is moments where the angles are completely different. And I think there's one part in just a little bit that is going to have that. So I'll point it out when I get to it. Let's see. Is there a good way to get acclimated to a newer version of Maya? I have 2015, but have heard 2017 is much better. It's exactly the same. Like, graphically, it's different. Performance-wise, it's way better because they actually, Maya 2017-16 actually uses all of your GPU, whereas previous versions like Maya 2015 only used a portion of it. So I can animate with a more complex rig at almost full speed in these versions of Maya compared to Maya 2015, which was slow. Very, very slow. So performance-wise, there's a difference, but actual like animation-wise, it's not that different. So here's the area that I wanted to point out just while I'm on it. You can see how the upper leg is kind of angled forward, and it's kind of tricky to look at this leg position here But you just kind of have to think of the anatomy of the creature. So for example, his hip bone is right around there. His knee is right there. So we create a line there. Now we go from the foot to the foot there, and you can see how we're getting these backwards facing lines. So I'm just going to take this and bring it back. And you can see how that's going to help that spacing as well, so I don't get a huge pop that I had before. And then here, let's bring that down. And then make sure to copy the beginning to the end, so I make a nice clean cycle. But yeah, just going back to your question about the different versions of Maya, it's the same thing. Everything that you learned in previous versions of Maya is going to all apply. There's not going to be a huge learning curve or moment where it just breaks things. Now, I will say that in Maya 2017, there are a few little tweaks that do change, just the way they set things up. But it's all more on the graphical side of it than the actual use side of it. So, if you were to just like jump right into Maya 2017, you'd get it in like 10 minutes, and you'd be off and running. And then run into the occasional little roadblock. So, for example, the big one to me was when you go into the graph editor by default. First of all, you'll see that all the tangents are visible all the time. If you don't like that, you go to View, Tangents, on Active Keys. That way it works like previous versions. And this is the big one that kind of annoys me. And this, I think this is just my version of Maya. For some reason, it always resets the preferences like this. By default, if you go to Select, Curve won't be turned on. So I can select Tangents, but I cannot click and drag to select the curve. I need to select all the keys like so, which is different from previous versions. So if I just go to Select and turn this on, now if I click on and drag on the curve, it'll actually select the curve. So it's just a tiny little inconvenience, but it's there. And again, that is most likely on my system. I don't think it's a universal setup. It's just for some, even if I reset the reset the preferences, it keeps going back for that. It's for VR chat. I'm not sure what you mean by the VR chat. Do you mean the selection there? Let's see. The next axis I need to do is my rotate Y on the legs here. Make sure that those knees aren't impacting the sides. There's a very specific shape of the leg that I'm aiming for on this walk. And I need to make sure that I keep that knee from kind of wiggling too much. Like it does right there. I also don't want to pull it out too far. Let's see. So like that. Then the knee will come in slightly. Again, this is why I like having the graph editor open at all times. Not because I'm actually tweaking curves all the time, but because I can just quickly tweak an entire animation like so, very quickly, without having a ton of back and forth. You're trying to use the manipulators and just a ton of headaches like that. Ease this in a little bit more. Something like Okay, good. Let's see, I don't like that. That's plateauing. That's better. I'm being picky. Save again. Can never save too often. Oh, thanks for the tips, but I gotta go. Oh, definitely. If it's that late for you, definitely have a good night, and thanks for dropping by. If you do want to catch the end of this, the recording will be posted on Twitch. So, and this goes for everyone here. If you gotta leave, if it's late, I don't want to keep you up and ruin your next day. Definitely get to bed, get some good rest, or do something if you want to do something else. But I really appreciate everyone just taking the time to even spend just a few minutes in here. Especially when this goes on for, like, we're almost at 3 hours now. That's way above and beyond what I would expect anyone to do. It's so awesome that anyone would do that. Let's see. I'm looking at the hip here, and I kind of want to offset the hip, or sorry, this upper leg here to the foot coming down so that it creates an offset. Something like that. So what was happening is on the frame 1 to 2, that the knee was popping down with the foot, and I wanted to get that foot to impact first and then the knee to come down afterwards. It's a very slight change, but I'm hoping it'll make a difference in creating a feeling of weight and offset from the foot to the knee to the hips, instead of everything just going down at once. We appreciate all the help you and your bro give us. Oh, thank you so much. It's our pleasure. Like, the reason we do it is because it's just so much fun. The AM community is probably one of the best communities we've ever met. Everyone we've met through AM has just been some of the most awesome people ever. And it's just so much fun to get the chance to hang out and like do Q&As like this, where I'm just animating a T-Rex and people are joining in and talking, and it's just, how can this get any better? Basically, it's just so cool. And I can't even put into words just how much fun this is for me, and the fact that we can help people. And at this point, we've been teaching classes for long enough, and we've been helping people for long enough that we've seen some of our students that we've taught, or some of the people that we've helped when we first started out, they're working at Pixar now, or ILM, or Blizzard, and it's so cool to or it's such a good feeling to think that we might not have been the key factor in their getting there. They had the drive, they had the motivation, they had the skills on their own to get there. But in some small way, we helped them get there. We were a part of their journey there. I don't want to say that we really helped, because everyone's different, and everyone's journey was different. But just the fact that we were able to offer some assistance to someone on their way to their dream, to me, that's just really awesome. It's such a cool feeling. And I really appreciate the fact that anyone would even listen to us, or like pay attention, for lack of a better word. It would be so easy for people to just go, I'm gonna do it on my own. So it's so cool. And again, it's the AM community. Everyone's so nice and so friendly, and you can talk to people, and it's just amazing. I work at 2K. Oh, nice! 2K Games. Right. Is it 2K Games? The full title? But yeah, that's awesome. At this point, I think my brother and I know someone from pretty much every studio. Maybe not. No, actually, we do know someone who works at Leica. We met them at CTN this year. So I'm trying to think of a studio that we don't like. Aside from like smaller studios around the world, like there's always going to be a studio that you don't know of. But like of the major studios, it's just a weird feeling to think that at any studio, my brother and I, if ever we kind of get out there and start working at these studios, we would meet someone that we know. And it's just, that's weird and awesome at the same time. You've been mentoring us longer than anyone else. that's actually kind of cool. I like that. I'm gonna put your name in all my progress reels. You've learned from me, but you've applied that learning. And this goes for everyone. All of you have learned from your mentors and whatnot. And I'm not saying not to be grateful. I am so grateful to all of the mentors who've taught me. Like I would not be here without them. But also be proud of the work you've put in. You are where you are, especially if you're working at a studio now. You're where you are because of your dedication. No matter what teacher you have, unless you had that drive and that passion to push yourself forward, you wouldn't be there. A good teacher does not mean you're going to have good animation. You have to be a good student to have good animation as well. And you guys have that, which is awesome. Take care, Danny. Thank you for dropping by and spending some time here. It was a lot of fun. Let's see, and thanks for the Friday dailies on term 1. I'm so happy. I'm so happy they've been helpful. I really enjoy doing the Friday daily Q&As. Those are always some of my favorites. Just because I get to check out people's work, which I don't usually get to do as much as I would like. Okay, I think I've got this foot and leg pretty much done. I just need to tweak this PV control here. The pole vector control is what controls the angle of the heel here. And I just want to make sure that I'm, again, getting the pose structure that I was aiming for in my planning. Let's see. I want to ease that in a little bit more. I like and appreciate everything on AM, and I learned a lot from my official mentors. And the Fridays were the most helpful. That's awesome. I'm glad that they were so helpful for you. I'm always worried when I do Q&As like that, or like as you can see in this stream, I've been doing this for 3 hours almost, and I talk the whole time. I get very distracted with time a lot of it. I'm gonna say time again. I get distracted with time a lot of the time. Lots of time in that sentence. And I can get very easily distracted about how long I should be teaching or things like that, as you've seen in the assignment tips and tricks Q&As, I'm sure. Those get amazingly long at times. And I'm always glad to hear that it's been helpful and that it wasn't just a slog of information. Because the last thing I want to do is bore someone when talking about this kind of stuff. Let's see. There's a spacing issue in the heel right there. I think it'll be fine. That's twisting way too much. Way too twisted there. Let's straighten that out. And simplify that curve. A lot of times I'm going to simplify curves like this just to make sure that I'm not getting any pops or wiggles. I just find it's, especially for a control like the PV control, I don't need it to be 100% under my control, in the sense of I have to have a key on every single frame and have it on ones or something like that. I don't need that. All I need is to make sure that it's nice and clean. So I'll just simplify that curve to be what I need it to be, and that's it. And then I can refine it more later if I need to. Actually, that PV control is moving too far. That's why I'm losing control. This PV control should always be kind of behind the knee there. So I'm just going to delete that and add in a key here. And let's just bring it back like so. There you go. So now it stays behind. Oh, not quite. So again, just make sure it stays behind right there. And oops, let's move that one. Okay. That's better. Let's see. Will you please do the earth? Shake the camera so that it feels like the dinosaur is actually really heavy. I can definitely do that afterwards to get that just nice weight to it. And does that rig have any controls for the hair? These are spines, so it's not too much control, but you can select these spines here. I don't think you can actually rotate them or anything. The pivot point is kind of way down here. So you can see it. You don't actually have full control over those. But it wouldn't be too hard to just move the pivot point of those and make it so that you can animate those if you wanted. Me personally, I would probably take the ones off of the arms and just animate the ones on the back. So just hide those arm ones to simplify it, because that's a lot of little hair controls. And if I wanted hair on this rig or on Hugo Leon, thank you for following. That's really appreciated. Thank you so much. If I wanted to do hairs like that, I might add some hair simulation to the elbows and things like that. Especially when there are a lot of little tendrils, that gets very tedious to have to animate, especially for a more complex shot. I would rather spend my time adding bigger things like neck motion and things like that than animating individual hairs, especially since hair is very easy to simulate in general in comparison to other things. Okay, so let's see. We've got that foot, the leg, the PV. Let's save the scene here. And I don't know if I'm going to get to the other leg today. I might just kind of do the other leg off screen because it's just more of the same that we just talked about through here. And I don't know if anyone would be interested in rewatching all the toe animation and the knee and the everything else. But what I do want to do is do a quick play blast, or actually check my notes first. Again, I've still got that checklist, super helpful. So I'm halfway through the foot contacts need refining, foot splay needs work. That's the when the toes push down on the ground, foot slipping. I've solved all of that for this foot. Afterwards, the only other things left on my to-do list was for the chest, but I might save that for another stream. I was hoping to get it all done today, but ended up covering a lot on the foot, so that's not bad. Let's actually see. I might have over animated that knee. I want to double check that. It's always better to over animate something, though. Keep that in mind. The last thing you want to do is under animate something, because it's easy to see if something is over animated. If it's under animated, it always kind of looks, maybe, maybe not. Truong rigs are awesome. Yes, they are. His rigs are amazing. I want to get his actual Velociraptor rig and his T-Rex rig. Those would be so cool. This is the I-Rex, so it's kind of like a mixture of the two. Let's see. Would you do all this step again from scratch, or try to copy as much from the other foot? I would do it from scratch. For a walk cycle like this, it is tempting to just copy it, but oftentimes, oh, Malachi, thank you so much for following. That's really appreciated. Thank you so much. That's awesome. It's tempting to copy foot poses or anything that's happening on one side than the other, especially for a cycle like this. But if you're not careful, it can lead to something feeling very robotic. The other thing is, I like to do it manually because it gets me into the practice of animating faster. Again, the reason I'm animating this is as a test to understand the rig and try to get faster at working with it, so that when I'm animating a proper shot with this rig, I'm fast and I can just animate like very quickly. So I want that extra practice in, because when I'm animating a shot, an actual shot, there's going to be no copying. I'm just going, oh, Caprice, thank you for following as well. That's so awesome. Thank you so much. When you're on an actual shot, the dinosaur might be like running. If you think of Jurassic Park, so many followers. Thank you so much. Buffip, thank you so much for following. I have to get to my point, but it's so cool that everyone's joining in like that. What was I going to say? If you think of Jurassic Park, there might be a raptor that's chasing after some people, and then they're running on dirt, then they jump on a car, and then they walk a little sideways, and then they jump on something else. Everything that they're walking on isn't going to be even, and they're going to be turning and twisting and kind of weaving in and out. So there's not going to be a specific cycle. It's going to be a fluid shot. So at no point will I really be copying foot positions in that sense. So I don't want to kind of really fall into it now, where I'm relying on a tool, and then when I get to the actual shot, suddenly I'm doing more work and having to go, oh shoot, I can't rely on my tool anymore. I need to do this by hand. So that does that mean you can't use a tool? Definitely not. Sometimes it is very nice to have a mirror tool, and some rigs will have it, some studios will have it. For me, it's just a matter of not getting reliant on them. And I like to do that manual practice. Again, it kind of falls back down to that I like to get into those little details where I'm animating the toes. It's just kind of very zen, I guess you could say. So let's take a look at this shot here. I'm going to do a quick play blast, and we'll compare the old to the new. Now, I know the back leg's not going to look quite right, but like I said, I can do that on my own instead of taking everyone's time, just kind of repeating the same thing here. So let's do a play blast. like so. Okay. So here we have the new Play Blast, and can I open a second window of this? I don't think so. So what I'm going to do is just open it in a different player. Oops. Where are you? Where did I save it? Oh yeah, in the folder. Nope, not in the folder. On my desktop. Where are you? Ah, there it is. The thumbnail wasn't showing up. Okay, so this was the old walk right here. Oh, EXE Rogen, that's awesome. Thank you so much for following. I was trying to figure out how to pronounce your name. I was gonna say X Rogen, but I think it's EXE, or maybe it is X Rogen. Anyway, thank you so much for following. I really appreciate that. So let's see here. So let me go to play, and where is the loop? Oh, after playback. No. Let's see. Forget where the looping options are on this. Oh well, let me open it in another player that I do know looping options. There you go. So this was the old walk. And the big issues that I had that I was hoping to address, and I don't know if I've addressed it yet. That's the glory of this list here, is I've tried to fix all of them, but I don't know if I have. That's fine. That's the point of this list. So the main things that I was trying to address, the first one and the main one was the hips. They feel poppy, like they're just kind of slamming down and then popping straight up, and there's no weight to it. So when the foot is coming down here, the hip is coming down at the exact same time and rotating at the exact same time in rotate Z, so that there's no weight. As the hip is coming up, it's coming up after that foot has left the ground, right there. So that foot is already off of the ground and the hips are coming up. That can't be. It needs to, the foot has to push off of the ground for those hips to raise up. Then, of course, there's the refining details in the toes, all of that. There's some knee pops. So those were the main things that I fixed so far. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it, as we've seen, it took 3 hours. And I should mention, for anyone who's thinking it takes 3 hours just to do that, it takes a lot longer when you're talking. If I was to do this on my own, and I just noticed the music stopped. There's no music anymore. If I was to do this on my own and just to concentrate 100% on it, I'm not saying it would go super fast, but I probably could have done this in about half the time, if not just maybe an hour or something like that. And this is why, if you're really, if you want to speed up your workflow, one of the things that you can do is turn off social media. Now, that's not to say that you don't want to talk or interact with people, because sometimes that can be very helpful as well. It's just like here, I like talking to people when I'm working. It makes it more fun. But it does slow you down. If you just concentrate fully on your work, it'll speed you up. Just be careful of focusing too much and kind of getting locked in your shot. Having a little bit of both is not a bad thing. So those are the main things that I wanted to fix here. And I would have taken twice as long for me, who did it super fast. Yeah, that's something that's gonna, even as you go through your classes and your terms, you're gonna speed up so much. For example, when just going to the bouncing ball assignment, for example, when I did my first bouncing ball assignment, it took me a week. and it was like, yeah, it was okay. It was passable. So a week to do a bouncing ball, and that's studying reference and all of that. Oh, Animal Nature, thank you for following. Thank you so much. So it took me a week to do a bouncing ball. Now I can do a bouncing ball in a few minutes. Like, give me 5-10 minutes, I'll get you a nice polished bouncing ball, no problem. Tell me the weight and whatever you want. Maybe it'll take 15 minutes to make it more precise. Compared to a week. That's a big difference. Now, of course, that week was spent studying and watching lectures and things like that, but it's still a week, which involves learning. And that's something that all of you, when you're going through this through AM or any school, to keep in mind is when you hear that someone in the industry, they have to finish a shot a week. That's from start to finish, polished, refined work in a week or less. And for most students, they work on a shot for 4 to 6 weeks. So something that would take someone more than a month, as soon as you're in the industry, suddenly you have to do it in a few days. That's a big change, and that's very daunting. But keep in mind that, first of all, when you're working at the industry, you're working on your shot 8 hours a day. Straight. So when you're a student, you're now working 8 hours just straight on your shot. The other thing to keep in mind is, as a student, you're learning. Part of that time that you're spending on a shot is the learning process, the studying, the studying reference, shooting reference, all of that stuff. When you're working in the industry, a lot of the times when you're actually working on your shot, you've already done most of your studying, doing these tests here. So yeah, exactly. Stress levels are actually lower in the industry, typically, unless you're working at a bad studio or a studio that's like really pushing you, which there are, but that's life. Anywhere you work, you're gonna have industries that don't treat their employees well. For the most part, studios are pretty good at treating their people really well. But what was I saying? As a student, you've got a lot of things to keep in mind, plus work if you're working at the same time. When you're in the industry, you are doing your work. You're being paid to animate. So that's a big de-stress right there. And you're given the time to work on it and the assistance to work on it as well. A lot of times when you're working at a studio, you're going to be working with people who will be helping you to get acclimated to their environment or to the setup. So, like, for someone who's starting out, it might seem fast the way I animated this here, but it really is just a matter of practice and experience. That's it. There's no special tricks or anything like that. Now, there are ways you can speed up, like the list. This is something I would recommend everyone does. And you can do it on pen and paper or on the computer or whatever. I like to do it on pen and paper because it feels so good to cross something out on this compared to just hitting delete or backspace on a keyboard. It's not the same. So that's kind of my preference there. But kind of going back to the shot here. So the main things we addressed were with the main things we addressed were the issues with the hips and the feet, especially that one leg. So let's see what we have on our new shot here. Okay, so it's better. There's still some things off, and that's fine. That's this is not a magic process where you just hit a few buttons and everything's good. I'm noticing there's a little bit of a hitch in the forward translation, ever so slightly. Just gonna have to tweak that a little bit. But let's just kind of frame through. This contact is feeling much better. The hip rotation is feeling good. I'm still getting a little bit of a pop coming up here, and then he plateaus. So that's something I'm going to need to address. Right there. I'm getting a V shape in his arc right there. The other thing is the foot spacing is a little fast. But the problem with the foot spacing is I've only fixed one leg. So it's very tricky to spot whether the spacing is being caused by the leg I fixed or by the just the other leg passing behind it. I think what I can do is just push the spacing so that I get a little bit faster in the middle and ease a little bit, especially right there. So let's just quickly address those while we're here. So let's see. Take this foot, translate Z. I wanted to push the spacing as it lifts. Right. Move my camera. So it lifts off the ground here, and then it pops right there. So let's take my spacing here and let's just bring it back a little bit. Doesn't have to be much. Then it comes forward, and let's ease this in just a little bit more. Oops. Like so. And maybe bring this forward ever so slightly. So that way I have, instead of the whole motion being fast, I've got a fast bit in the middle, but I ease in and out at the beginning a little bit more. That's a way of kind of blending in a fast motion. If everything feels fast, it's not going to read properly. But in this case, it's only going to be 1 or 2 frames that are going to be fast, and then the rest are slower. So I'm blending in that speed a little bit more. If that makes sense. The next thing is the forward and back on the cog here. Let's see. Gonna have to expand my graph editor here. Let's see here. I just need to even this out a bit, and I think I'm just going to get rid of some of the keys, like so, just to kind of even it out. And again, since this is a very smooth motion to begin with, I don't need a key on every single frame. Basically what I'm just aiming for is to have enough keys to create the motion, which is just a nice smooth arc of speed up and slow down. That way I don't get that start stop. Afterwards, let's go up here, and it was the translate Y of the hips. So this is where the hips are feeling like they just kind of pop up and they kind of come down too evenly as well. So let's push this a little bit more down. Hold there, and then pushes up, and I'm just going to I'm gonna have the up happen a little later. So let's see. Let's take this down here and just tweak the spacing a little bit. Let's see what we get. It's not an exact science, but as I'm doing this, I'm not just changing things willy-nilly. That's the big thing I want to to say is I'm not changing these just randomly and on the fly, just hoping that I get some result that I want. I'm doing this very methodically and with purpose, because I want a very specific result. And if I was to just change things willy-nilly, well, that wouldn't give me anything, and I wouldn't learn from anything either. Again, this is a learning exercise that I'm doing here, and this is something all animators do. Even when you've got years of experience, you do these learning exercises, because we don't know everything. And you're going to be animating a shot that you're going to be completely new to one day. So we just go through and try to figure out the mechanics. And I've seen a lot of people get very discouraged because, well, I don't know it by heart. I'm not able to just snap get it right in the very first try. That's normal. No one gets it right on the very first try. Unless you're someone like Glenn Keane, and even then, I'm sure he has a lot of experimentation he does, and he's got years and years of experience that most people, even most people in the industry, don't have. Not very many people have as much experience as he does. Don't be discouraged if you have to take some time and just try things out. But just keep in mind that you are learning, and that learning takes time. And also that, let's see, there's a pop in the spacing here. What was I going to say? Learning takes time, and as long as you apply what you're thinking of, so I'm still applying all my basics, all of the fundamentals, the 12 principles of animation, all of that good stuff. I'm not just dropping out on the wayside and going, okay, I'm just gonna guess. No, I'm thinking my way through things in order to get better results. Okay. Kind of want to push the down of the hips more there. So what I'm doing here is I want to feel more weight on the down. I'm going to try to push it a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Very quick fixes, but I just want to see if I'm headed on the right track. Now, one thing I should be doing is turning on my resolution gate before play blasting, just to make sure that I've got the right composition. And let's play blast again. Let's see. What reference do you look for when animating a dinosaur? A combination of a lot of reference. So let me open that up before I show this shot here. So the reference I have, I've got a bunch of different ones. The main things that I'm using are bird references, because dinosaurs are birds. or prehistoric birds. So things like ostriches. So got this shot of an ostrich for some of the foot mechanics and just kind of body motions. Chickens. Chickens are great for smaller dinosaurs like Compsognathus or things like that. So that's the other thing to keep in mind. The size of the dinosaur will affect the reference you use. So for example, my dinosaur here is that size compared to a human. So it's not a T-Rex size. It's not a tiny little thing. It's more Raptor from Jurassic Park, which technically isn't even a real dinosaur. So take care, Sin. Hope you have a great night, and I'll see you in the Q&A tomorrow. Let's see. Did you work on Jurassic World 2? I wish. Any Jurassic Park movie or Jurassic World would be a dream for me to animate on, because I love dinosaurs. Even though this is technically my first dinosaur animation, I have to admit that. I've animated dragons and other fantastical creatures, ogres and whatnot. I've never actually animated a dragon. It never came up. So this is a learning experience for me in terms of the specific mechanics. But kind of going back to the reference, whenever you're animating any creature, especially fantasy creatures or creatures that don't exist anymore like dinosaurs, it's a matter of studying different creatures and kind of meshing them together. It's for example, like a dragon, you can take all sorts of things. Oh, thank you for the follow, Maddox. Thank you so much. That's really appreciated. So for a dragon, like you might take the wings of a bat, the back legs of a cat, or maybe if it's a bigger kind of more wide dragon, it might be more bear-like, or more crocodile-like if it's kind of walking on its stomach. It really depends on what kind of feeling you want from the creature. For example, in one of the Game of Thrones commercials, when they were animating a baby dragon for the commercials, they used reference of chickens and pigeons because it's a small dragon. It's just a tiny little thing that doesn't really know how to fly. So for this dinosaur, I used big birds like ostriches, emus, and specifically cassowaries. Because cassowaries here are very much like ostriches, but they're more raptor-like, more predatory in their movement. And you can see, especially like here, that's very dinosaur-like. That almost looks like a dinosaur. It looks very prehistoric. So that's the main reference that I used for the most part. Now, the physicality is very different. Birds and dinosaurs, even though they're related, they're very different in terms of bone structure. Yeah, clever girl, exactly. That shot right there, where it's kind of peeking through the foliage. Every time I see it, I think of that scene from Jurassic Park, the clever girl scene. Right there is just it feels like a dinosaur. So it's a mixture of looking at a reference, and then for anything that you can't find reference for, having a good understanding of body mechanics, of human body mechanics, of creature body mechanics, that you can kind of incorporate it into something new. So it's a lot of studying musculature and bone structure and how things would move for a certain weight. And where do I work? Right now I do a lot of freelance work, and I work for Animation Mentor as well. So I actually teach at Animation Mentor. I do extra Q&As and stuff for Animation Mentor, and it's an online school for animation. But my like animation work is freelance at the moment, which is a lot of fun. I do want to go back to studio work one day because it's fun to work with in a studio. But freelance at the moment is just it fits my what's happening in my life right now. I can't travel much, and I need to kind of stay at home a lot more. So freelance works really well for me in that sense. And that's the nice thing with being an animator. Once you get to a certain point, you can get freelance work, and it gives you a few more options compared to having to move to big studios. Let's see. Creature is so much fun. It's really difficult, but worth the effort. Yes. 2 of my creature shots got the AM Student Showcase. Nice. That was awesome. What did you do the Dozer and Dragon shot? Was that the shot that got on the creature reel? Where Dozer was... I'm trying to think of what last year's reel was. Yes. Oh, that was an awesome shot. I loved that shot. I remember seeing it when you were working on it in the creature class. That was an amazing shot, especially all the detail you added in, like, just the little things. So cool. And just the fact that you used 2 rigs that are pretty complex into one scene and made a good story out of it. That's awesome. Did I work on any known projects? None that I can say, unfortunately. That's one of the things with being an animator, is when you work on a project, you have to sign non-disclosure agreements, so you can't talk about what you worked on or show anything you worked on for a set amount of time. And most of my recent work is stuck in that. So until those projects get released, I can't say what I worked on. It also means that all of my most recent work is... I can't show it. But if you want to see... The only work that I can show publicly at the moment is all my student work from when I was a student. So it's... you can find it there. That's me and my brother. Both of us have our work on there, but it's only our student work. Series or games? Let's see. A little bit of both, actually. So, mostly series, TV kind of stuff. But let's see. In terms of the project that Danish worked on, I think I can find the showcase here for you if you'd like, so everyone can see his awesome work. Let's see. I just have to remember where the student showcase is. Are you Cameron or Bo? I'm Bo. I should put a name tag on here. Oh, he's got it already? Okay, cool. Yeah, links are allowed in chat if you guys want to share links and whatnot. Feel free. I always love to see people's shots and animations and stuff like that. And Peter Kelly is a great mentor. I had him when I was in class 5, I think. He was a really great mentor. Just a shirt that says Team Bo. Going to head out. Oh, thank you so much for dropping by, Brandy. It was great having you in here. And hopefully I'll see you in another stream or in another Q&A at some point. Let's see. So, going back to my shot here. I just want to see if the hips and feet are working now. Oh yeah, that's feeling way better already. It's still a little off. I think my rotate Z is it's leading... No, wait. What's happening here? Yeah. It feels fine on this side, the way the weight is pushing up on it, but on this side, it almost feels like the hips are pushing down in an odd way. I think they're too even as they're coming down. It's making the feeling of, instead of taking on weight, it's pushing into the ground, like a steady push instead of a drop, which is what the hips are supposed to be doing at that point. Let's see. He says they're twins, but it's just a reverse of the Prestige. You know, the Prestige, for most people, it's a cool film of I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's a really cool film and with a really cool twist. For my brother and I, after we saw the ending, it raised some very serious moral questions for us about what would we do if something happened to one of us where, like, we lost a finger. Do we just go, now we're different? Or do we go, well, do we want to be the same still? It made us think for a while. Yeah, Josh has some awesome work. Everyone should check out his stuff on that showcase, and he did the dragon shots. I can't remember if there's other dragon shots on there. There might be. But his are the dragons with the dozer rig, which is the big kind of alligator creature thing. Do we try to be the same? Yes and no. When we were young, we never tried to be the same. Not out of trying to be different or anything. It's just we dressed like anyone else would. We didn't actively set to be the same. And then as we grew up, we kind of figured that, you know what, we like the same things. We like the same clothes. We like the same color of clothes and whatnot. So why have to try and be different all the time? It was just kind of more work trying to get clothes that were different and trying to be different so that we could be unique somehow. And then it kind of just evolved into dressing exactly the same all the time. And at this point, it's just so second nature that it's just how we are. Like, we don't actively set out to, oh, we should always dress the same. Okay, what shirt are you wearing? I should wear that same shirt. It's just second nature. Which I really like. I have a lot of fun with that. Our motto, or the way we kind of think about it is, the more we're the same, the more we're unique compared to a lot of other people. Not that we're trying to be like, oh, look at us, we're so unique, ha ha ha, that kind of thing. It's just, we like it. It's a personal preference. And then, do you have any job offers from known companies? Job offers from ILM, MPC, not MPC, Weta. So ILM, Weta, Rockstar. What else? There's a few others. I forget now. Those were the big ones that we got job offers from, my brother and I. Either job offers or requests to apply there from people we knew. So people we knew at the company asked us if we wanted to apply there. They knew of an opening. So, yeah, we almost got onto Rockstar for Red Dead Redemption 2, which would have been awesome. They're one of my favorite companies. They make such cool games. But unfortunately, something came up with our family, and we just couldn't take the job. Like, it would have meant not being around for things that we had to be around for. So, like, it was a tough offer to say no to and to have to pass off because it was awesome. And they were so cool as well. Just the people we were dealing with at Rockstar, so kind and just doing all they could to be accommodating and totally understanding. They were awesome. So I'm just trying to get this arc working right in this curve here. Okay, great. I don't want to do that. Let's see. I want to get this kind of a little bit more of a pop in this hip here, like that, where the spacing goes really fast, to sell the feeling that the weight is being pushed down. But just trying to get this curve working as well is a little bit of a pain. I think I'm getting it. That's a little better. Okay. Let's see. No, not quite. Let's see. The spacing on these hips are just not quite working the way I want them to. Let's see. I did this rig. No, this rig is from Truong. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but I can get you the link here. He's a great rigger, and he's got some awesome rigs on his site here. Let's see. Let's see. Where would you go when you return to studio life? I'm not sure actually. It really is whatever's open at the time, because depending on when you go for studio work, some studios will be looking for people, others won't. It kind of fluctuates, so it'll really depend on that. And then, is movie animation more difficult than doing animations for games? It's different. I wouldn't say it's more difficult. In games you have tighter schedules, so you're going to have a lot less time to work on a shot versus on movies where you're going to have a lot more time. Commercials are the same. You have to work much faster. Television is still fast. So it really depends on what you're working on as well. So for example, if you're doing video game animation for character animation as you're playing the game, that's going to be a lot less time than if you're animating the cinematics. That's going to have a little bit more time. But especially nowadays, they're very similar. It used to be not that long ago even, when you were animating games versus movies, there was a very clear difference in Chronic Crusader, thank you so much for the follow. There used to be a very different divide in video games versus film, because the process was different, the way you had to animate and just the amount of time you had, and rigs were very basic in video games, like they were just blocks and you didn't have all the finger controls and all of that. Nowadays, with games being like the graphics are so advanced, a lot of times animation for games and movies is the same process. At this point, it's really what project are you working on. That's going to determine the difficulty. The type of project, games, animation, determines the speed that you animate, how fast you have to animate. And are all your tangents are locked for weighted right now? Yeah. So I have weighted tangents on right now. That means that I can pull them out and all around like so. Typically, I don't usually work like this, but Maya 2017, this is its default behavior, so I just kind of left it. And it's not that there's anything bad with working like this, not at all. I just find that how to put it? If I'm not careful, I can over-rely on weighted tangents, which is something I don't want to do. When I'm working with my curves, I would rather set more keys than just use the tangents. That's a personal preference. There's nothing wrong with just working with the tangents. It's just I find that if I'm not careful, and this just applies with tangents in general, if you're not careful, you can very easily lose animation. So for example, I just tweaked these tangents here. If I was to accidentally select the curve and hit auto tangents, let me buffer this curve first so you can see the difference. So if I was to hit auto tangents by mistake, you'll see that the curves change quite a bit right in here where I used the weighted tangents. The rest of my animation though stays pretty much the same because I've put keys instead. So it's just a matter of preference, really. But let me try to get this a little smoother here. There you go. Get that cycle smoothed out. Let's see. I'm figuring out whether I like to break in free tangents to manipulate curves or use more keys like you've done. I use both, honestly. It's a mixture. I don't like, and this kind of applies to all my workflows, I don't just pick one and stick with it. I always like to experiment and use whatever's best for the situation. It's very easy to get locked off in, oh, I have to do something this one way. And I used to do this quite often, actually, where, oh, I have to animate this way because that's the way you do it. And it's not really true. As long as you get good results in the end, that's what really matters. The techniques and everything else is just a way of making sure that we follow steps and don't skip anything. So I'm trying to just get these hips, the spacing working well on them. So I'm just going to isolate them like so, just so I can see the control. And even though it's just the control, I can kind of see if this is appealing. And it kind of feels it. I want to see if I can feel that weight shift where it kind of goes from one side to the next. And I need to focus on my translate X as well. That's causing issues. Let's see. Any advice for people who want to start with animation? If you want to start with animation, the first thing I would recommend is getting a couple of books. Actually, 3 books. The first 2 that would be the most important are the Animator's Survival Kit by Richard Williams. That book is going to be a huge help in just understanding the fundamentals of animation. The next one is Eric Goldberg's, I forget the name of it, Character Animation Crash Course. And I can get you the links for these 2. That way you don't have to try and write them down. Let's see. So, Animator Survival Kit, Eric Goldberg, Character Animation Crash Course, and then The Illusion of Life by Frank Thomas and Oliver Johnston. Illusion of Life. These 3 books are probably the best bet for starting to learn animation if you just want to kind of understand the fundamentals of it. So here's the links. Now after that, in terms of program, Maya is the studio the industry standard typically for CG animation, especially for films and TV. 3ds Max tends to be favored for video games, but I would recommend Maya just because it's got a very versatile animation software. 3ds Max tends to be a little trickier to start animating with. If you're interested in 2D animation, there's a bunch of free programs. Krita is one of them that you can just start using. Let me give you the link for that. So Krita is going to be a free program. You can also use it for drawing and stuff like that, but it has some animation tools in there that you can use, and it's free, so that's great. Maya, you can get a student version of it in some cases, so again, you don't have to pay a huge amount for an animation software. Blender, if you can't get Maya, Blender is a free alternative. I haven't used Blender to animate all that much, but it's a good alternative. Illusion of Life is overpriced for what it is. Illusion of Life, it's one of those books that a lot of people recommend, like, you have to get the Animator Survival Kit and the Illusion of Life. Those are the two main ones. Personally, I say the two main ones are more the Animator Survival Kit and then Character Animation Crash Course, especially for dialogue stuff. Character Animation Crash Course is really good. The Illusion of Life is an animation book that when you first read it, it seems like it doesn't explain anything. It's a history of Disney more than anything, and the different fields and whatnot that they would do. But it's one of those books that the more you learn about animation, when you revisit that book, there's a lot that you can pick up from it. There's a lot of, I don't want to say they're hidden, but the more you learn, the more you get out of it, oddly enough. So it's one of those books that I would recommend getting afterwards, because you'll get more out of it later on than right at the start. Maya and Motion Builder are becoming more standard for animation games. Yeah. Well, 3ds Max was bought out by Autodesk, so Maya and 3ds Max are actually owned by the same company now. So they're kind of just merging into one program. Illusion of Life, when you first read it, is just like, this is not teaching me how to animate, this is just teaching me the history of Disney and how they animated. It's still a good book, like, it's a great read. But once you... It's just kind of odd how when you know a little bit more about animation, you read it back, it's like, oh, I didn't even realize that this applied, and I can apply this kind of mentality to this kind of work. And it's more of a the mentality of an animator, not the process of an animator. Now, if you're still interested in like taking a class of animation, there's a lot of them. My personal recommendation is Animation Mentor. That's the class I took. It's a class I actually teach at Animation Mentor now, but I took that course. And the reason I recommend it is because it's a great course for going from no animation experience to good animation experience. Before I took Animation Mentor, I was a baker. I had zero animation experience. I never did a flip book. I never did anything. No animation. None. So I went from a baker with zero animation experience to being hired right out of the school. So I recommend Animation Mentor. I know it personally. But there are other programs, if you're interested. Look around, see what works well for you and what feels right for you. Let's see. Do the Pratt Brothers have a YouTube channel? I don't, unfortunately. My brother and I, we've done some YouTube work, but it's always been for other people. We've never actually created our own YouTube channel. So that's something I would like to do one day. Do some little animation tests and stuff like that. Let's see. Very theoretical, philosophical. Yeah. Richard Williams is great for practical ideas you can put right to use and learn to walk. Yeah, exactly. I can't say it better than that. One is the theory and philosophy, the other is the practicality. How do you decide which AM course to do? The AM courses are... there's the main AM course, the character animation course, which is from class 1 to 6. It's a 6-course program that takes you from the very basics to final animation, like full character animation, dialogue, everything. Full character animation that you would do on a feature film. So that's the main course. If you have no animation experience, that's the one to take. If you have some animation experience, you can show your demo reel to AM and they'll figure out which course you can start in. So what would be the best bet that you'll learn the most and get the most out of the program without having to start right from the beginning. And then you have workshops, which typically the workshops are for people who already have animation experience. So for example, the creature workshops are for people who already have animation experience, or even people who are working in this industry currently and want to expand on more varieties of animals. So mostly as animators, you tend to learn how to animate people. So the creature animation course workshop is there to help supplement that once you've learned the basics at least. You don't want to jump in those without some animation experience. Same with the cartoony workshop and the storyboard workshop. That's kind of separate from animation. It's more the storytelling side of it. So that one is just not animation really, it's storyboarding. Which it does help to have some animation experience as well in that. But yeah, it's the main course is the character animation course. Let's see, I want to track this because I'm not liking the side-to-side motion that I'm getting. Motion trails are not showing up for me. Let's see. This is something that if anyone runs into, sometimes when you're trying to track something, you won't see the curves. Let's see. Is there a reason? Oh yeah, I wanted to answer that question. So the reason I'm using IK spine instead of FK is an FK spine on most creatures an FK spine is how you would typically animate most human characters, because it's how our spine actually works. If we try to animate an IK spine on a human character, oftentimes it makes it more difficult to animate. Now for quadrupeds, IK spine is easier because of the way the chest, you have the front legs touching the ground. Basically the chest becomes another set of hips in a way, mechanically. So it's easier to use 2 IK controls instead of an FK spine, because then you're always having to counter animate things. Now for a creature like this, he's technically a biped, but his spine is horizontal, like a quadruped. So the reason I chose IK spine here is because it's going to give me a lot more control to add overlap to the arms like this without having to counter animate what the hips are doing. So it's going to be a little bit more work trying to make sure that the spine doesn't bend in weird ways, but it's going to just give me that extra control to not have to fight what the hips are doing. Hey Sin, welcome back. So that's why I'm using IK spine, basically. And then the same thing with the IK head. Since this is a predator, I can use the IK body, like this, to move the body around, and you'll see how the head stays in place. That gives a very predatory motion. Predators, when they're... most predators, their heads are very stabilized. And especially birds. So since this is kind of a bird ancestor, I wanted that head to be extremely stable. Let's see. I'm going to create a locator here. The reason I'm doing this is so that I can track the hips. I'm just going to constrain the locator to the hips here. Like so. Then set a key. And track that. There you go. And the reason I'm tracking this is so that I can easily see... Oh, that's why I didn't track. I need to auto load. Let's see, that. Show, isolate selected. There you go. Now it's showing. I just want to make sure that my side-to-side motion is working. And right now, let's look at the front view here. Show motion trails. You can see how the arc of the hips is kind of this U shape. I want it to be a little bit more of a figure 8 shape. Let's see. Is this like some kind of onion skin? Kind of. The thing with onion skinning is very good, or ghosting as it's called, is very good for 2D animation. 3D animation, because there's so much geometry and like you can move it at any angle, it gets very confusing if you have too much onion skinning or ghosting. So this is basically just a tracker that'll show you the exact arc of whatever you have selected. So in this case, this is the hip control. And I can just use this as a way of kind of cleaning up my arcs or making sure that they are flowing correctly. Now the problem with this type of tool is that oftentimes it can slow Maya down quite a bit because it's recalculating as you're animating all the time. So it's a little bit of a pain in that sense, but it's worth it. The other thing I like is if you select the editable motion trail and go into the attribute editor, you can go right now it's showing past and future, so anything in red is before the current point in time, anything in blue is after. I like to switch it to alternating frames. That way I can see the spacing as well. It's not necessary, but I just kind of find it helpful. So let me turn off isolate select. There you go. And I'm going to actually show the manipulator on here just so I can see my point in time. Let's see. Want to arc that out a little bit more here. Let's see. Basically, I'm just trying to get a nice clean arc in here. Right now you can see, especially right on that edge, it's just not feeling right. It's got a kind of wiggle to it that I'm not liking. So I'm gonna just push this a little bit more. Clean that up. A little bit more like that. Let's see. I'm gonna refresh this motion trail. Let's see. Editable motion trail. Let's see. Would you use a proxy rig at this stage in the animation? It depends on the shot. A lot of times I don't use proxy rigs. just because I'm used to animating without them. So it doesn't affect me either way too much. But at the same time, if the rig was moving really slowly, I would try to use a proxy rig just to speed things up a little bit. But there isn't no solid yes/no, unfortunately. It's just whatever works best for the scene at that time. Let's see. Then he shifts his weight. This is feeling a little linear, so I'm going to push it a little bit more. And then let's go there. And like so. And clean that up. Okay. So now it's looking a little better, not quite right. Move that out a little bit more. And it doesn't look like this is refreshing, so let's see if I can force a refresh on it. No. Let's see. So, delete this again. It's like control curve. I'm actually going to get rid of this locator. And there you go. And this is one of those things. Oftentimes the control will auto update. Sometimes it doesn't. And there's my cat. For anyone who doesn't know, I've got a very old cranky cat. He likes to jump into the streams and kind of just meow a lot, especially when he's hungry. So, there he is. Hello. Oops. Hello. So there you go. And just get this flowing nicely here. And I think that's better. Not quite right though. What's off here? These keys need to be pulled in a little bit more. There. This needs to be pulled in more. So that's better. So I'm kind of going for this figure 8 shape in here. There you go. And let's just see what we've got here. So for anyone who wasn't here at the beginning, basically what I'm aiming for right now is to clean up the hips and the feet. I haven't done the back foot here. I won't have time for it today, unfortunately. So just to show the difference, the foot closest to us, when it contacts the ground, it kind of pushes down, the toes flex out, and then when it leaves the ground, it pushes off the ground and the toe nails just dig in. The other foot right now is just kind of the toes cut into the ground, and then there's no push properly when it contacts. So I need to fix that later. But right now, the main thing I'm working on is the hips. Could I make him scream? That's actually the end goal here. Right now, this shot that I'm working on is an animation test. This is the first time I'm actually using this rig. So whenever you're using a rig for the first time, it's always nice to do a quick animation test. This helps to just kind of get familiar with the rig, find out the limitations or anything to kind of watch out for as you're animating. And then once you've done that, you can go into a full shot. So once I'm done with this animation test here, I'm actually hoping to do a full shot of like the Raptor running through a scene and like attacking something or hunting or something like that. I'll have to think about that and plan that out. But for now, it's... oh, did this rig come with FK-IK matching? No. This rig doesn't have an FK-IK snap tool or match tool. There you go. The hips feel much nicer now. Not quite right, but at this point, now I'm just kind of noodling. The next thing I need to do is get the chest and the head working well, and then I can get the tail working in there as well. But I think the hips and this front leg at least are pretty much done for now. So I think with that, I might call it here and go grab some supper. I've been streaming for about 4 hours now. So for anyone who just came in here, if you're interested in seeing kind of the progress or like any specific parts of this shot as I'm working on it, I will be posting a recording of this. So if you want to just kind of skip through and get some highlights or see how I did certain things like the feet pushing off the ground, there will be a recording for you to check out if you're interested. So I think with that, let's see. I'm just gonna check something here. Oh, my pleasure. These streams are something I've been wanting to do for a while. I just really enjoy doing things like this. It's fun to animate something and get to chat with people. And I really appreciate all... I just rewind for cat meows. Exactly. I really appreciate everyone kind of taking the time and jumping in here to watch me animate. It means a lot to me. So thank you very much for jumping in, and hopefully I'll see you in future streams. That'll be a lot. That would be a lot of fun. So I think with that we can call it here. And for those of you in AM, I'll probably see you tomorrow in the Friday Q&As for the school. For those who aren't in AM, again, hopefully I'll see you in future streams. And take care. I'm just waiting for the chat to catch up, just in case anyone has last minute questions. There's a lag in the chat here, so I always want to wait a little bit instead of cutting it off too early. But it makes for long goodbyes. Cool. So take care, everyone, and thank you so much for stopping by. Take care. Bye.